There is a moment in the very first episode of Regular Show where Mordecai and Rigby are sitting on their couch, trying to figure out how to get a raise. They have punched a hole in the wall. They need money to fix it. And instead of doing literally anything productive, they sit there, flipping through channels, arguing about whether it is even worth trying. That scene, on its surface, is a cartoon about two lazy friends in a cartoon park. But if you are watching it as an adult, something else happens. You recognize those two. You have been those two. You have sat on that couch, staring at a problem you created, knowing exactly what you need to do, and choosing instead to do absolutely nothing. And then something magical happens. Literally, a keyboard falls from the sky, or gets pulled from behind the couch, and suddenly there is a shortcut, a magical way out. And even the magical way out goes horribly wrong. That is the premise of Regular Show, not just the pilot, the entire series. Two 23-year-old slackers who work at a park, avoid responsibility at every possible turn, and accidentally summon cosmic chaos because they refuse to do things the normal way. It sounds like a children's cartoon. It is not. Or rather, it is a children's cartoon the way a swimming pool has a shallow end. You can splash around in the first 3 feet and have a perfectly good time, but the deep end is right there. And Regular Show spent 8 seasons filling that deep end with jokes, references, and observations that no child under the age of 16 could possibly understand. Not because the show was being sneaky about it, because the show was made by adults who remembered exactly what it felt like to be stuck between adolescence and adulthood, and they wrote from that place with terrifying precision. This is not a video about dirty jokes hidden in a kid's cartoon. That framing misses the point. This is a video about a show that understood, from its very first frame, that adulthood is not a destination you arrive at. It is a slow, uncomfortable realization that the things you used to find funny are actually kind of sad, and the things you used to find boring are actually kind of important. Regular Show built its entire comedic engine on that gap. The gap between what these characters think their lives are and what their lives actually are. And the jokes that live in that gap, the ones that fly completely over a 10-year-old's head, are some of the sharpest, most quietly devastating observations about growing up that any animated show has ever produced. Welcome to Velvo. Get comfortable, settle in, turn the lights down low. This one is going to take a while, and that is exactly the point. We are going to walk through Regular Show moment by moment, joke by joke, and pull apart the humor that you did not catch when you were younger, or that you caught but did not fully understand, or that you understood perfectly and laughed at a little too hard because it hit a little too close to home. And if you have not subscribed yet, it really does help us keep making these. Hit that button, get comfortable, and let us get into it. The place to start is where the show itself started, not the pilot, before the pilot. Because Regular Show did not spring fully formed from the mind of J.G. Quintel on a random Tuesday at Cartoon Network. It crawled out of something much stranger, much darker, and much more explicitly adult than anything that ever aired on a channel marketed to children. The short film was called 2 in the AM PM. Quintel made it while he was a student at the California Institute of the Arts in 2006. It was his senior year project. The result was a roughly 8-minute animated short about 2 gas station clerks working the graveyard shift on Halloween night. The premise is straightforward. 2 young guys working at a convenience store. One of them offers the other a piece of candy. The candy, it turns out, is laced with acid. The kind that makes you hallucinate that you are turning into a blue jay and a raccoon. And that is exactly what happens. The 2 clerks start tripping. Hard. The animation warps. The colors shift. Reality bends. And somewhere in the middle of the hallucination, the characters transform into what would eventually become Mordecai and Rigby. A gumball machine appears. That is Benson. A lollipop man floats through the scene. That is Pops. The entire cast of Regular Show is born, not from a pitch meeting or a network development deal, but from 2 animated dudes eating acid-laced candy at a gas station at 2 in the morning. Think about that for a second. The show that aired on Cartoon Network at 8 in the evening. The show that millions of children watched every Monday night. The show that sold lunchboxes and backpacks and Halloween costumes. That show is, at its genetic core, an acid trip. Mordecai and Rigby are not just slackers who work at a park. They are the hallucinated alter egos of 2 gas station clerks on a very bad night. The show never references this directly. It does not need to. But the DNA is there in every single episode. The surreal escalation. The way a simple task always spirals into something cosmically unhinged. The way reality itself seems to have a loose relationship with the rules. That is not random cartoon logic. That is the logic of 2 in the AM/PM. That is the logic of a world that was born from a drug trip and never fully sobered up. And here is the part that matters for this video. Quintel did not hide this. The short is widely available. It has been discussed in interviews. He has spoken openly about the connection between the CalArts project and the show that followed. But no child watching Regular Show in 2010 knew any of this. No 10-year-old watching Mordecai and Rigby argue about who has to mow the lawn was sitting there thinking about the fact that these characters were originally conceived as acid hallucinations. That is an adult joke that does not live inside any specific episode. It lives underneath the entire show. It is the foundation, and once you know it, every single surreal escalation in every single episode carries a different weight. Not heavier, just different. Like hearing a song you have always known and suddenly realizing the lyrics are about something else entirely. The first episode of Regular Show proper is called The Power. It aired on September 6, 2010 on Cartoon Network. The plot is deceptively simple. Mordecai and Rigby find a magical keyboard. When they press certain buttons and sing certain phrases, reality bends to their will. They use it to try to get a raise from Benson. They use it to send people to the moon. They use it to erase problems and create solutions. And naturally, predictably, inevitably, everything goes wrong. On the surface, this is a cartoon about a magic keyboard. For kids, it is fun. Buttons that do crazy things. People getting launched into space. Silly voices and silly songs. But for adults, The Power is doing something much more specific. It is a parable about shortcuts, about the fantasy of solving your problems without actually solving your problems. Mordecai and Rigby do not want to earn a raise. They do not want to fix the hole in the wall through honest labor. They want a cheat code, and the show gives them one, and then it shows them, and the audience, exactly what happens when you try to cheat your way through the consequences of your own laziness. The keyboard does not just malfunction. It creates cascading disasters. Each attempt to fix one problem creates 2 more. The solution to the solution needs its own solution. If you have ever been 23 years old and tried to take a shortcut on a responsibility, you know this feeling intimately. The lie you told to cover the first lie. The quick fix that broke something else. The moment where you realize that doing the thing the hard way would have taken less time and caused less damage than the elaborate workaround you constructed. That is not a children's joke. That is a millennial horror story. And Regular Show plays it for laughs, but the laugh comes from recognition. You are not laughing because it is absurd. You are laughing because you have been there. There is a specific visual gag in The Power where Mordecai sends someone to the moon using the keyboard. The person just disappears, gone, launched into the void of space. And the show does not linger on it, does not address whether that person survived, does not show them floating in the vacuum. Just moves on. As an adult, that throwaway moment is darkly hilarious because of what it implies. They may have just killed someone with a keyboard because they were too lazy to deal with a conversation. And the show treats this with the same emotional weight as accidentally breaking a lamp. The casualness is the joke. The show is not being subtle about what it is doing here. It is telling you that in Mordecai and Rigby's world, consequences do not feel real. Other people do not feel real. The only thing that feels real is the immediate inconvenience of having to do something you do not want to do. And if you have ever been in your early 20s, you know that feeling. You know the selfishness of it. You know how small your world can get when you are that age. The show knows it too. Now let us talk about coffee. Because Regular Show has an entire episode about coffee addiction that is, without exaggeration, one of the most thinly veiled drug metaphors in the history of children is television. The episode is called Caffeinated Concert Tickets. It is Season 1, Episode 3. It aired on September 20th, 2010. And it is, on every level, an episode about substance dependency dressed up in a cartoon costume. The setup is this. Mordecai and Rigby want to buy concert tickets. The tickets are expensive. They ask Benson for extra work to earn more money. The work is exhausting. They are falling asleep. And then they meet someone who can help. a giant sentient coffee bean. This character does not just offer them coffee, he physically produces it from his body. The coffee comes from the bean's chest, from what the show very clearly frames as nipples. The giant coffee bean lactates coffee directly into Mordecai and Rigby's mouths, and the show just moves on. Like that is a normal thing that happened. Let that sit for a moment. A Children is Cartoon aired a scene where two characters drink a stimulant directly from the nipples of a giant anthropomorphic bean, complete with a comment about the bean's chest. No child watching this processed what was actually happening. They saw funny characters drinking coffee and getting hyper. But any adult watching this scene, any parent sitting on the couch next to their kid, saw something very different. They saw a visual gag that was about 3 inches away from being genuinely obscene. But the coffee metaphor goes deeper than the visual humor. Watch what happens to Mordecai and Rigby after they start drinking. They get energized, they work faster, they accomplish more, they feel invincible, and then the effect wears off, and they crash, and they need more. And the more they drink, the more they need, and the less effective it becomes, and the further they fall when it stops working. This is not a coffee commercial. This is the cycle of stimulant dependency, animated in bright colors. The episode even has a withdrawal scene. The coffee bean and his translator switch out their coffee for chamomile tea. Mordecai and Rigby do not just get sleepy, they collapse. They cannot function. They are completely helpless without the substance that was keeping them going. And while they are incapacitated, the people who gave them the substance steal from them. They take the concert tickets, the thing Mordecai and Rigby were working for in the first place. The thing the coffee was supposed to help them get. Gone. Taken by the very source of the dependency. If you are an adult watching this, the allegory is so clear it is almost uncomfortable. A substance that makes you feel productive, but actually makes you vulnerable. A dealer who provides a product and then takes everything from you when you are too dependent to fight back. A crash that leaves you worse off than where you started. This is not a metaphor you have to squint to see. It is right there, drawn in primary colors, airing on a Monday night on a network for children. The show does not comment on this. It does not add a very special episode disclaimer. It just tells the story and lets the adults in the audience recognize what they are seeing. The reason this matters is not that the show snuck drugs into a kid's cartoon. That framing is reductive. The reason this matters is that regular show understood, from episode 3, that the line between a kid's comedy and an adult parable is not a wall. It is a membrane. The same story can operate on both sides simultaneously. Kids see funny coffee. Adults see dependency. And neither reading is wrong. They are both there, by design, and the show is better because of it. This brings us to something that regular show does more consistently and more brilliantly than almost any other animated show of its era. It weaponizes escalation. Every episode starts normal, painfully normal. 2 guys have to set up chairs. 2 guys have to buy a sandwich. 2 guys have to return a movie. The task is always mundane, and then the task spirals, and spirals, and spirals, until setting up chairs summons a destroyer of worlds, until buying a sandwich requires impersonating astronauts, until returning a movie involves confronting a sentient British taxicab that murders people. For kids, this escalation is just fun. Things get bigger and crazier and louder. But for adults, the escalation is a commentary. It is the show saying something very specific about what happens when you avoid simple responsibilities. The chaos is not random. The chaos is proportional. The longer Mordecai and Rigby wait to do the easy thing, the harder and more dangerous the eventual resolution becomes. That is not cartoon logic. That is life logic. Every adult knows that the email you avoided for a week becomes the crisis you spend a month fixing. The conversation you did not want to have becomes the relationship you lose. The bill you ignored becomes the debt that buries you. Regular show takes that universal adult experience and literalizes it. It makes the metaphorical consequences physical, supernatural, explosive, and in doing so, it makes the joke land twice. Once for the kids, who love the explosions, and once for the adults, who recognize the explosions as the natural result of procrastination. Just Set Up the Chairs is Season 1, Episode 2. It aired on September 13th, 2010. The title is The Joke. That is all they have to do. Just set up the chairs. Benson gives them one task. 1. The simplest possible assignment. And instead of doing it, they play an old arcade game in the storage room. The game unleashes a creature called the Destroyer of Worlds. The park nearly gets obliterated. The kids at the birthday party are surrounded by a fiery hellscape. And when it is all over, when the destroyer has been defeated and the chairs have been set up and the children are sitting in them, cheering, surrounded by literal fire, Mordecai looks at Benson and says something along the lines of telling him that they totally set up those chairs. That final image is the show in miniature. The chairs are set up, the job is done, and everything around the job is on fire. Mission accomplished, technically. For kids, this is slapstick. For adults, this is every group project you have ever been a part of. Every deadline you met by the skin of your teeth while everything around you fell apart. The chairs are set up, the report is filed, the presentation is ready, and you are standing in the wreckage of every other thing you neglected, while you were scrambling to finish the one thing that mattered. Regular Show knows that feeling, and it does not just reference it. It builds an entire episode around it, and then ends with a punchline that assumes you have lived it. We need to talk about Benson, because Benson is, without question, the character in Regular Show who changes the most depending on the age of the viewer. When you are a kid watching this show, Benson is the villain. He is the angry boss, the yelling gumball machine, the authority figure who never lets Mordecai and Rigby have any fun. He threatens to fire them constantly. He turns red. He screams. He is, from a child's perspective, the embodiment of everything unfair about the adult world. Rules, expectations, consequences, and then you grow up, and you rewatch Regular Show, and you realize something that fundamentally changes your relationship with the entire show. Benson is right. Not sometimes. Not in certain episodes. Always. Benson is always right. Every single time he yells at Mordecai and Rigby, it is because they have done something legitimately terrible. They have destroyed property. They have endangered lives. They have ignored direct instructions. They have lied, cheated, broken things, and then lied again about breaking them. Benson is not an unreasonable authority figure. Benson is a middle manager trying to keep a park functional, while his two worst employees treat their jobs like an inconvenient interruption to their social lives. This is the adult joke that does not live in a single line of dialogue. It lives in the entire structure of the character. As a kid, you side with Mordecai and Rigby because they are fun and Benson is not. As an adult, you side with Benson because you have been Benson. You have managed someone who does not care. You have given instructions that were ignored. You have watched someone destroy something through sheer apathy and then act surprised that there are consequences. Benson is not the villain of Regular Show. Benson is the show's most realistic character. And the fact that the show never explicitly states this, never breaks the fourth wall to tell the audience that Benson is actually the one who deserves sympathy, is what makes it so effective. The show lets you figure it out on your own, and the moment you figure it out is the moment you realize you are not a kid anymore. There is an episode in Season 3 called Think Positive. It aired on January 30th, 2012. The premise is that Pops forces Benson to stop yelling at Mordecai and Rigby. Benson has to be positive. He has to hold in his anger. He has to watch them destroy things and slack off and ruin his park. And he has to smile through it. The episode plays this for comedy. Benson is getting redder and redder, shaking with suppressed rage, while Mordecai and Rigby remain completely oblivious to the chaos they are causing. For kids, this is funny, because Benson looks silly when he is trying not to yell. He shakes, he turns colors, his gumballs rattle. Physical comedy. But for adults, this episode is about something much more specific and much more painful. It is about the emotional labor of management, about what it costs to be the responsible person in a room full of people who are not responsible. Benson does not just want to yell because he is angry. He needs to yell because yelling is the only tool left in his toolbox. He has tried asking nicely. He has tried explaining. He has tried incentivizing. Nothing works. And now Pops, the one person above him in the hierarchy, has taken away even his ability to express frustration. Benson is not just a cartoon boss. He is every middle manager who has ever been told to be more positive by an upper management that has no idea what is actually happening on the ground floor. The episode ends with Benson finally exploding, literally. He unleashes a scream so powerful it creates a shockwave. And the catharsis of that moment, the sheer relief of watching Benson finally let it out, only works if you understand what it feels like to hold it in. Kids do not understand that. Adults do. And that is the joke. If you are finding this interesting, subscribing really does help the channel keep going. Consider now, the unicorns have got to go. This is Season 1, Episode 8. It aired on October 25th, 2010, and it is one of the most densely packed adult humor episodes in the entire series. The episode barely tries to hide what it is doing. The setup is that Mordecai sees a commercial for a cologne called Dude Time. The commercial shows a man spraying the cologne and being immediately swarmed by women tearing their clothes off. Rigby watches this and says something along the lines of asking what kind of loser would want a bunch of girls tearing their clothes off. That line, delivered deadpan by a character who is clearly and obviously interested in exactly that scenario, is a joke that operates entirely on the level of adolescent masculine denial. No kid catches the irony. Every adult does. But the cologne is just the entry point. The real joke is the unicorns. Mordecai buys the cologne, and a group of unicorns show up. These unicorns are not magical fairy tale creatures. They are frat boys. They are loud, obnoxious, crude party animals who trash the house, make a mess of everything, and behave in ways that are extremely familiar to anyone who has ever been to a college party. They are not subtle stand-ins. They are unicorns in the way that the worst guys at every fraternity party are unicorns. Rare, mythical creatures in their own minds. Obnoxious, destructive nuisances in reality. The unicorns do things in this episode that push the boundaries of what a children's show can air. One of the unicorns approaches Benson. Benson is a gumball machine. His gumballs are located in his midsection. The unicorn reaches toward Benson's crotch area, takes a gumball from what is very clearly being framed as a genital region, and eats it. Benson reacts with visible discomfort. The scene is framed exactly the way you think it is framed. A stranger reached into another person's most private area and took something without consent. The show does not comment on this. It does not need to. The visual tells the joke. And the joke is absolutely, unambiguously not for children. Later in the episode, one of the unicorns gives Mordecai a drink. It is called a magic drink. After Mordecai drinks it, the unicorn tells him what was in it. The term used is unicorn goop. The implication is so clear that, by most accounts, multiple countries edited or restricted this episode. Because the joke, stripped of its cartoon context, is a joke about a character unknowingly ingesting bodily fluid. Not water, not juice, bodily fluid. From a unicorn is body, and the show plays it with a wink and a nudge that is aimed so far over the heads of children that it exits the atmosphere. This episode is important not because it is the most shocking thing regular show ever did, but because it establishes a pattern. The show uses fantastical elements, unicorns, magic, talking animals, to create a layer of deniability around jokes that would be completely unacceptable in live action. A fraternity of unicorns can do things on Cartoon Network that a fraternity of humans never could. The fantasy is not decoration. The fantasy is a delivery system. It is how the show gets adult content past the censors and into the living room. And it works because the surface level, unicorns being annoying at a party, is perfectly kid-friendly. The subtext, everything else, is exclusively for adults. We should go deeper into the show. Is relationship with death. Because regular show is, quietly and consistently, one of the most death-obsessed children is shows ever made. Characters die in this show. Not metaphorically, not temporarily. They die. And the show does not always bring them back. And when it does bring them back, the mechanism for resurrection is usually some form of supernatural negotiation that treats death as a real, permanent, consequential thing that can only be reversed through extreme measures. The episode that makes this most explicit is called Over the Top. It is Season 2, Episode 21. It aired on May 23rd, 2011. And the plot of this episode, stated plainly, is as follows. Skips kills Rigby. Not in a dream. Not in a simulation. Not as a hypothetical. Skips arm wrestles Rigby, and the force of it kills him. Rigby dies. On screen, in a cartoon that airs at 8 in the evening on a children's network. The context does not soften this. The setup is that everyone is at a bar called McHooligans. Already, The name of the establishment is doing work that kids do not catch. A bar, called McHooligans. For a children is show. They are having an employees' night out, which is itself a concept that means more to adults than to children. Skips is arm wrestling everyone and winning. Rigby challenges him and wins, but only because he is using a device called the Playco Arm Boy, which gives him superhuman strength. Skips discovers the cheating, removes the device, and insists on a real match. He slams Rigby's arm down, and Rigby dies. The show does not cut away. It does not imply the death. It shows Rigby's limp body. It shows the other characters reacting with horror. It shows Skips realizing what he has done. And then, because this is regular show, the solution is not grief counseling or a hospital visit. The solution is that Skips must arm wrestle Death himself to win Rigby's soul back. Death, in regular show, is a character. He appears multiple times throughout the series. He rides a motorcycle. He speaks calmly. He is not portrayed as evil or cruel. He is portrayed as bureaucratic. Death is just doing his job. He has quotas. He has rules. He has procedures. And when Skips shows up to negotiate, Death does not refuse out of malice. He agrees to the contest because that is how things work in his department. If you want a soul back, you have to earn it. This framing of Death as a bureaucratic process, as a system with rules and negotiations and loopholes, is a profoundly adult concept. Children think of Death as an ending, period, full stop. Adults know that Death is wrapped in paperwork, insurance claims, estate planning, medical directives, funeral arrangements. Death in the real world is not just tragic, it is administrative. And regular show captures that specific adult understanding of mortality and turns it into a comedic framework. Death is not the end. Death is a negotiation. And that joke only works if you have enough life experience to know how true it is. There is a moment in Over the Top where Death hawks a loogie into Rigby's mouth to bring him back to life. That is the resurrection mechanism. Not a spell, not a prayer, not a beam of light. A loogie, spit, from Death's mouth into a dead raccoon's mouth. The show could have chosen any method of resurrection. It chose the grossest, most undignified one possible. And that choice is itself a joke about Death's lack of dignity. About how there is nothing elegant or beautiful about the process of dying and coming back. It is messy. It is disgusting. It is a loogie in the mouth. If you have ever been in a hospital room, if you have ever seen what death actually looks like up close, you know that regular show is telling the truth here. And the truth, dressed in cartoon clothing, is the joke. Let us shift now to something quieter. Something the show does that is less about shock value and more about emotional precision. Regular Show is one of the few children-ish shows that accurately depicts the specific awkwardness of being in your early 20s and trying to navigate romantic relationships. And nowhere is this more evident than in everything involving Mordecai and Margaret. Margaret is a robin who works at a coffee shop. Mordecai has a crush on her that spans multiple seasons, and the way the show depicts this crush is so accurate, so painfully detailed, so precisely calibrated to the experience of being young and romantically incompetent that it functions as an entirely different show depending on the age of the viewer. For kids, Mordecai likes Margaret. He gets nervous around her. He says dumb things. It is simple. It is cute. It is age-appropriate. For adults, Mordecai is a case study in the specific kind of romantic paralysis that defines your early 20s. He does not just get nervous. He constructs elaborate scenarios to avoid directly expressing his feelings. He overthinks every interaction. He analyzes every text message. He creates drama where none exists, and then blames the drama for why he cannot make a move. He is not just bad at dating. He is bad at dating in the exact way that people who are terrified of rejection are bad at dating. And the show nails every detail. There is a line in the show where someone refers to Margaret as Mordecai is friend without benefits. That phrase does not register for children. It requires knowledge of the phrase, friends with benefits, which itself requires knowledge of what the benefits in that phrase refer to. The show drops this line and moves on, never explaining it, never calling attention to it. It is there for the adults. A single phrase that reframes Mordecai is entire romantic arc in explicitly sexual terms. He wants the benefits. He does not have them. And the show names this directly. in 4 words, and trusts the audience to either catch it or miss it depending on their age. Do Me a Solid is Season 2. The episode title itself is a double entendre that the show never acknowledges but absolutely intended. The plot involves Rigby demanding that Mordecai owe him solids, which are favors. The phrase "do me a solid" is a common idiom, but in the context of a show that regularly pushes the boundaries of appropriate content, the title reads differently to adult ears, especially when the solids become increasingly ridiculous, and Rigby uses them to control Mordecai's behavior in ways that are uncomfortably reminiscent of power dynamics in real relationships. The Mordecai and Margaret storyline reaches its emotional peak in Stake Me Amadeus, which is the Season 4 finale. It aired on August 12, 2013. Mordecai takes Margaret to a fancy restaurant to ask her to be his girlfriend. He has planned this moment. He has rehearsed it. He has built toward it across 4 seasons of the show, and Margaret says no. Not because she does not care about him, because she got accepted into her dream college. She is leaving. She cannot be his girlfriend because she chose her future over her present. She chose herself over him. This moment is devastating regardless of the viewer's age. But for adults, it carries a specific weight that children cannot access. Because adults know that this is not a cruel twist. This is not a villain sabotaging a romance. This is the most common, most mundane, most universally experienced form of heartbreak there is. 2 people who care about each other, moving in different directions. Not because of betrayal or deception, but because life does not synchronize. You meet the right person at the wrong time. You fall for someone who is on a different trajectory. And the love does not go away just because the geography does. Margaret cries. She runs out of the restaurant. She is not rejecting Mordecai. She is choosing growth. And the show has the maturity to let that choice be the right one, even though it hurts. No kid watching this scene understood what it meant to choose a career over a relationship. No kid understood the specific agony of realizing that doing the right thing for yourself might mean losing someone you love. That is an adult experience, and Regular Show depicts it with a level of emotional honesty that most live-action dramas cannot match. We need to talk about Muscle Man. Because Muscle Man is the character that adult viewers underestimate the most, and the character whose humor reveals the most about the show is understanding of masculinity, insecurity, and the defense mechanisms people build when they do not know how to be vulnerable. Muscle Man's name is Mitch Sorenstein. He is not muscular. He is overweight. He is loud. He is crass. He is constantly making my mom jokes. His catchphrase, "You know who else likes to," followed by whatever is happening in the scene, and then, "my mom," is, on the surface, a simple running gag. Kids laugh because it is silly and repetitive. The joke is that the joke never changes. But for adults, Muscle Man is, "my mom" jokes are doing something much more specific. They are deflections. Every single "my mom" joke is deployed at a moment where a sincere response would be expected. Someone says something real. Someone asks a genuine question. Someone creates a moment of potential vulnerability. And Muscle Man fills that space with a joke. Not a clever joke, not a witty observation. The same joke. Every time. Because that is what insecure people do. They find one defense mechanism that works, and they use it relentlessly. In every situation, regardless of whether it is appropriate. Because the alternative, being sincere, being vulnerable, being present in the actual emotional reality of the moment, is too terrifying to consider. Watch Muscle Man carefully across the series. Every "my mom" joke lands at a moment where silence would be more honest. And the show knows this. The show even makes an episode about it. My Mom is a Season 2 episode where Mordecai and Rigby are forced to work under Muscle Man. The jokes are constant, repetitive, grating. They are not funny, they are exhausting, and that is the point. The show is showing you what it feels like to be around someone who uses humor as a shield. It is not charming, it is not fun, it is tiresome. And the fact that Muscle Man cannot stop, even when everyone around him is begging him to, tells you everything you need to know about the depth of the insecurity driving the behavior. Then the show does something remarkable. It gives Muscle Man a genuine love story. Starla. Muscle Man and Starla's relationship is, on the surface, played for gross-out humor. They are both overweight. They are both loud. They make out in public in ways that disgust everyone around them. Kids laugh because two gross people kissing is funny when you are 10. But as an adult, you notice something. Muscle Man and Starla's relationship is the healthiest romantic relationship in the entire show. More stable than Mordecai and Margaret. More honest than Mordecai and CJ. More communicative than almost any couple the show depicts. They fight, but they resolve their fights. They disagree, but they talk through their disagreements. They are weird and loud and socially unacceptable, but they love each other with an openness and a consistency that none of the show is more conventionally attractive characters can match. The joke for adults is not that Muscle Man and Starla are gross. The joke is that the two people everyone looks down on have figured out something that everyone else is still struggling with. Love is not about being cool. It is not about being attractive or smooth or impressive. It is about finding someone who matches your specific kind of weird and holding on to them. Muscle Man knows this. Mordecai, 4 seasons into his Margaret saga, does not. And the show never makes this comparison explicitly. It just puts both stories next to each other and lets the adults in the audience draw their own conclusions. There is an episode called Muscle Woman in Season 2 where Starla breaks up with Muscle Man. He spirals, he stops working, he becomes genuinely depressed, and Mordecai and Rigby, who have been complaining about Muscle Man's behavior for the entire series, are forced to try to get them back together. Not because they care about Muscle Man's happiness, because his depression is making their lives harder. They want him functional again. And the show frames this motivation honestly. It does not pretend Mordecai and Rigby are being altruistic. They are being selfish. They want the annoying guy to go back to being annoying instead of being sad, because annoying is manageable and sad is not. That is an observation about adult friendship that most shows aimed at adults do not make. The idea that we sometimes help people not because we care about them, but because their suffering is inconvenient. The idea that motivation does not have to be pure to produce a good result. Muscle Man gets Starla back. He is happy again. Mordecai and Rigby get their lives back to normal. Everyone wins. And the mechanism that made it happen was pure, unadulterated selfishness. Regular show looks at that dynamic, nods, and moves on. No lesson. No moral. Just the truth, drawn in cartoon lines. This brings us to Death Punchies, Season 1, Episode 4. It aired on September 27, 2010, and it is a masterclass in how regular show smuggles genuinely violent content past the standards and practices department of a children's network. The premise is a game called Punchies. Mordecai and Rigby play it constantly. You punch the other person punches you back. Last one standing wins. Mordecai always wins because he is bigger and stronger. Rigby always loses because he is smaller and weaker. And Rigby, tired of losing, decides to learn a martial art called Death Kwon-do. Death Kwon-do. Say it out loud. It sounds like Taekwondo, which is a real martial art. It also sounds like death plus a martial art, which is exactly what it is. The dojo Rigby visits is run by a sensei who wears jean shorts and a mullet. The training montage plays You Are the Best by Joe Esposito, which is the song from The Karate Kid, a 1984 movie that no child in 2010 has seen. The entire sequence is a parody of 80s action movie training montages. It is pitch perfect. The framing, the music, the editing, the absurd sincerity of it. And none of it registers for kids. For kids, Rigby is learning to punch better. For adults, the show is performing a loving, detailed recreation of a specific era of American cinema and trusting the audience to recognize every reference. But the real adult content in Death Punchies is not the references. It is the violence. Rigby learns a move called the Death Punch, and once he has it, he does not just use it against Mordecai. He uses it against everyone. He goes on a rampage through the park. He punches people with a force that sends them flying. The show does not frame this as funny slapstick. It frames it as genuinely dangerous. People are getting hurt. Property is getting destroyed. Rigby's face, animated in a specific way during these scenes, shows something that is not comedic at all. It shows satisfaction. Rigby is not punching people because it is funny. He is punching them because it feels good. Because he has been the weakest person in every room his entire life. And now, for the first time, he has power. And power, unearned and unrestrained, is dangerous. This is not a kid's joke. This is a character study of what happens when someone with deep-seated inferiority issues suddenly gets access to overwhelming force. Rigby does not become a hero. He becomes a bully. He becomes the thing he hated. And the show does not spell this out. It does not have a character turn to the camera and say that power corrupts. It just shows you Rigby is face while he punches someone who cannot fight back. And it trusts you to recognize what you are seeing. There is something that regular show does with a frequency and a casualness that is genuinely remarkable for a children's show. It depicts bars, restaurants that are clearly bars, establishments where characters go to drink beverages that are clearly alcoholic, and the show never says the word alcohol. It does not need to. McHooligans is the most obvious example. It appears in multiple episodes. It is where the park employees go for their nights out. It has a bar. It has stools. It has the specific amber lighting that bars have. Characters order drinks. They consume those drinks. The drinks affect their behavior. They get louder. They get more emotional. They make decisions they would not normally make. The drinks are never identified by name. They are just drinks. But the context, the setting, the behavior changes, the atmosphere, all of it is unmistakably a bar. Every adult watching knows it is a bar. Every kid watching just sees a restaurant. Weekend at Benson's takes this even further. This is Season 3, Episode 12. It aired on January 16th, 2012. The plot involves Mordecai and Rigby accidentally knocking Benson unconscious. They try to revive him. They fail. They end up taking his unconscious body to a party to impress a woman named Audrey. At the party, someone makes a drink called the Mississippi Queen. When characters drink the Mississippi Queen, they hallucinate. The animation changes, colors shift, reality warps. The hallucination sequence is accompanied by the 1970 song Mississippi Queen by Mountain. The show is not being subtle about what the Mississippi Queen represents. It is a drink that alters your perception of reality. That causes hallucinations. That transforms the way you see the world. Kids see a funny special drink. Adults see a very specific kind of beverage that causes a very specific kind of altered state. And the hallucination sequence itself is animated in a style that is deliberately evocative of a psychedelic experience. Swirling colors, morphing shapes, distorted proportions. This is not random cartoon weirdness. This is a deliberate, specific, culturally literate visual reference to what happens when you consume certain substances. And the adults in the audience know exactly which substances. The song choice reinforces this. Mississippi Queen by Mountain is a classic rock song from 1970. No child in 2012 has any connection to this song. It is a deep cut, aimed squarely at the parents watching with their kids, or at the college-age stoners who make up a significant portion of regular show is actual viewership. The show knows its audience. It has always known its audience. And its audience is not just children. Its audience is everyone who has ever been 23, sitting on a couch, doing nothing, watching the world spiral out of control around them. A quick reminder that subscribing helps us continue making these deep dives. There is another dimension worth examining here. The specific language patterns that regular show uses to smuggle adult content past the censors, because the show has an entire vocabulary of substitution, words and phrases that sound innocent but function as stand-ins for things that are decidedly not innocent. The most famous example is the word pissed. In the episode Meet Your Maker, Season 1, Episode 6, which aired on October 11th, 2010, Mordecai tells Rigby that he is pissed at him. By most accounts, this line made it to air in the initial broadcast and was later changed. In subsequent airings, pissed was replaced with ticked off, because Cartoon Network received complaints from adults who understood what pissed means. Kids did not complain. Kids did not even notice. The word was flagged by adults who were paying attention to the language being used in a show their children were watching. And the fact that the word made it to air in the first place tells you something about the environment in which regular show was produced. The line between acceptable and unacceptable was being tested, actively, in real time, by writers who knew exactly where the boundary was and chose to step over it. But pissed is obvious. The subtler substitutions are more interesting. Characters in regular show call each other whole, not the full word, just whole. but the context, the delivery, the specific situations in which the word is used make it unmistakably clear that whole is a truncation of a much more specific anatomical insult. Mordecai calls Rigby a whole. Rigby calls Mordecai a whole. The word is deployed with the exact tone, the exact timing, the exact emotional weight of the word it is replacing. Kids hear whole and think nothing of it. Adults hear whole and complete the word themselves. This is regular show is genius with language. It does not just swap in clean words for dirty ones. It creates a system of auditory suggestion where the listener is context provides the vulgarity. The show does not say the bad word. The show makes you think the bad word. And that is a much more effective form of adult humor than simply sneaking a curse word past the censors, because it turns the audience into an active participant in the joke. You are not hearing something inappropriate. You are thinking something inappropriate. The show gave you just enough context to get there on your own. Rigby talking about how Benson is going to drop his balls when he sees how well they set up the chairs is another example. Benson is a gumball machine. He has gumballs. The gumballs can, conceivably, drop. The line works on both levels simultaneously. For kids, it is a joke about a gumball machine losing his gumballs in shock. For adults, it is a testicular joke about a supervisor being so impressed that he literally loses a specific part of his anatomy. Both readings are technically valid. The show chose words that allow for both, and that is not an accident. That is a writing room full of adults who spent time, genuine creative energy, crafting lines that function as double entendres so seamlessly that the innocent reading and the vulgar reading are equally supported by the text. There is a scene in an early episode where the park workers are preparing a surprise party for Skips. They turn off the lights, and in the darkness, you hear a belt unbuckling, a zipper going down, and then Muscle Man is voice saying something about how Skips is going to be so surprised when he comes in and sees them totally naked. The lights come on, the surprise happens, the show moves on, but those sound effects, the belt, the zipper, in the darkness, followed by the word naked, form a sequence of audio cues that suggests something very specific to adult ears, something that has nothing to do with a surprise party. And the show plays the entire scene with absolute sincerity, as if there is nothing unusual about what the audience just heard, which is precisely what makes it funny. The joke is not the scene. The joke is the gap between what the scene shows and what the audio implies. Let us spend some time on a thread that runs through the entire series, and that represents maybe the most sophisticated adult content in the entire show. Regular Show is, at its core, a show about the terror of growing up, about the specific, paralyzing fear of becoming an adult. And it expresses this fear not through dramatic monologues or very special episodes, but through the structure of every single story it tells. Think about the fundamental dynamic of the show. Mordecai and Rigby are 23 years old. They work entry-level jobs at a park. They share a room in a house provided by their employer. They have no savings, no plan, no ambition. They do not cook. They do not clean. They play video games and argue and waste time with a commitment that borders on the religious. They are, by any adult metric, failing. They are behind. They are stuck. They are doing at 23 what most people stop doing at 19. And the show never tells them this. Not once, in 8 seasons, does a character sit Mordecai and Rigby down and say that they are wasting their lives. Benson yells at them about specific tasks. Skip sighs and fixes what they break. Pop smiles and gives them another chance. But no one addresses the elephant in the room. No one says that these 2 young men are trapped in a perpetual adolescence that is going to catch up with them eventually. The show does not need to say it, because the show is saying it with every episode. Every time a mundane task spirals into a cosmic crisis, the show is saying it. Every time a simple responsibility transforms into a life-threatening disaster, the show is saying it. The escalation is the metaphor. The bigger the crisis, the longer they avoided the task that caused it. The more destructive the consequences, the more basic the responsibility they were running from. The show is not about magic and monsters and supernatural chaos. The show is about what happens when you refuse to grow up. And the magic and monsters and supernatural chaos are just the show's way of illustrating the cost of that refusal in terms vivid enough for children to enjoy and accurate enough for adults to recognize. Rigby is the purest expression of this theme. He is shorter, weaker, lazier, and more insecure than Mordecai. He dropped out of high school. He lies constantly. He cheats at games. He avoids hard work with a desperation that borders on pathological. And the show explains why, gradually, across multiple seasons, through episodes that reveal his backstory in pieces. Dawn is Season 1, Episode 10. It aired on November 8, 2010. Rigby, his brother Don, visits the park to help with a financial audit. Don is everything Rigby is not. He is tall, he is charismatic, he is successful, he is an accountant. Everyone loves him. Mordecai loves him. Benson loves him. Pops loves him. Don walks into the room, and everyone gravitates toward him, and Rigby stands in the corner, watching, consumed by a jealousy so deep it reads as grief. The episode reveals, through flashback, that this dynamic is not new. At Rigby's 6th birthday party, Don showed up and unintentionally stole every friend, every moment of attention, every scrap of celebration that was supposed to be Rigby's. Not through malice, through charisma. Don is not a bad person. He is not trying to overshadow his brother. He is just naturally more likable, more impressive, more present than Rigby will ever be. And Rigby has been living in that shadow his entire life. Don's most notable trait is that he gives people sugar. This is his word for hugs. "Give me some sugar," he says, opening his arms. And the phrase, "give me some sugar," is one of those perfect regular show double meanings. For kids, Don is asking for a hug. For adults, "give me some sugar" has a specific romantic or sexual connotation. It means kiss me. It means show me affection. And the show uses it repeatedly, in various contexts, always with the innocent meaning on the surface and the adult meaning humming underneath. The climax of Dawn is Rigby finally giving his brother sugar, finally hugging him, finally accepting that Dawn is not the enemy, that the real enemy is the insecurity Rigby has been carrying since he was 6 years old. And this resolution, this hug between two brothers, is played with complete sincerity. No joke, no punchline, no ironic distance. Just two characters making peace with a dynamic that has defined and damaged their relationship for their entire lives. For kids, this is a nice moment. For adults, this is a devastatingly accurate portrait of sibling rivalry, of the specific pain of having a sibling who is better at everything without trying, of the way that pain can calcify into resentment so deep it becomes part of your personality. Regular show does not just show you that Rigby is jealous. It shows you how that jealousy was formed, what it has cost him, and what it would take to let it go. And it does all of this in 11 minutes, in a cartoon about a raccoon and a talking gumball machine. The show has a relationship with the 1980s that is so specific, so detailed, and so consistently deployed that it constitutes an entirely separate layer of humor that is invisible to anyone born after 1995. Prank Callers is Season 1, Episode 9. It aired on November 1st, 2010. Mordecai and Rigby love prank calling. They idolize a figure called the Master Prank Caller, they call him, and he sends them back in time to 1982, the year J.G. Quintel was born. The year the show's nostalgia is set to. And the 1982 that regular show depicts is not a generic retro aesthetic. It is a specific, detailed recreation of what the early 80s actually looked like, right down to the specific storefronts and product displays of the era. For kids watching in 2010, the 80s are just the past. Generic old stuff, weird hair, funny clothes. But for adults watching in 2010, the 80s references are specific enough to trigger genuine nostalgia. The hairstyles are right. The technology is right. The cultural details are right. The show is not just saying the 80s were different. The show is saying, remember this specific thing about the 80s, and trusting the adult audience to remember it. This is not an isolated incident. Regular show references the 80s constantly. The music choices alone tell the story. Working for the Weekend by Loverboy in caffeinated concert tickets. You're the Best by Joe Esposito in Death Punchies. These are not random songs. They are specific, iconic tracks from a specific era, chosen because they evoke a specific emotional response in viewers old enough to have heard them in their original context. A child in 2010 hears a catchy song in a cartoon. An adult in 2010 hears their youth. The Pink Floyd posters on Mordecai and Rigby is wall. The VHS tapes, the CRT televisions, the cassette players, the retro video games. Every visual detail in the show is calibrated to evoke a specific decade, and the decade it evokes is not the decade its primary audience lived through. It is the decade its creators lived through. Quintel was born in 1982. The writers grew up in the 80s and 90s. The show is, in many ways, a love letter written by adults to their own childhoods, addressed to children who will not understand the references, but wrapped in enough energy and humor that the children do not need to understand them to enjoy the show. The 420 references are the most explicit version of this generational gap. Regular show includes the time 420 on background clocks, with a frequency that cannot be coincidental. In one episode, a character says something about having a 420 at a 420. The number 420, in adult culture, is unambiguously associated with marijuana. It is the time, the date, the code. Every adult who sees 420 on a clock in regular show knows what it means. Every child who sees 420 on a clock in regular show sees a random time. The show is speaking two languages simultaneously, one for the kids, one for the stoners, and both audiences are being served honestly, without either one being shortchanged. This dual language approach is consistent throughout the show. The Big Lebowski references, the Stephen King homages, the classic rock soundtrack, the horror movie parodies. Regular show is steeped in the cultural output of the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s in a way that creates an entirely separate viewing experience for anyone old enough to recognize the sources. Elo Governor is a parody of Christine. Death Punchies is a parody of The Karate Kid. Weekend at Benson's is, obviously, a parody of Weekend at Bernie's. These are not nods. They are structural homages. The episodes borrow plot mechanics, visual language, and tonal frameworks from their source material. And that borrowing is invisible to children and completely visible to adults, creating a show that is simultaneously a kid's cartoon and a pop culture archaeology project. There is something the show does that is easy to miss because it is so pervasive. Regular show depicts work, actual work, the daily, mundane, repetitive work of maintaining a physical space. Raking leaves, mowing lawns, picking up trash, setting up chairs, cleaning, painting, repairing. The show is set in a park, and the characters are park employees, and the show takes the time, every single episode, to establish what the work is before it gets interrupted by the supernatural chaos that drives the plot. For kids, this work is just the setup. It is the boring part before the fun part. It is the thing Mordecai and Rigby are supposed to be doing before they start doing the interesting thing. But for adults, the work is the joke, because adults know what work is. Adults have done these tasks. Adults have raked leaves and mowed lawns and cleaned spaces and repaired things, not because it is fun, but because it is necessary. And watching Mordecai and Rigby recoil from these tasks, watching them treat basic maintenance as if it is cruel and unusual punishment, is funny because it is a mirror, not of what adults do, but of what adults used to do, of how they used to feel about work before they understood that work is just the thing that holds everything together. The show's sharpest workplace humor comes from the way it depicts the relationship between effort and outcome. In the real world, if you do your job competently, nothing dramatic happens. The park stays clean, the lawn stays mowed, the chairs stay set up. But in regular show, competence is impossible. Something always goes wrong. The routine task always becomes the extraordinary crisis. And the reason this is funny for adults is that it captures a truth about work that is both specific and universal. Sometimes, no matter how simple the task, the universe conspires to make it difficult. The copier breaks, the client changes the brief, the meeting runs long, the colleague drops the ball. Simple things become complicated things, and the complication is never your fault, but it is always your problem. Regular show takes that dynamic and amplifies it to cosmic proportions, and the amplification is what makes it funny rather than depressing. There is a specific kind of joke that regular show deploys that I have not yet addressed, and it is the joke that only works if you understand what the show chose not to show. Regular show is a show about two 23-year-old men who live together, work together, and spend virtually all of their time together. They do not date successfully for most of the series. They do not have active romantic lives. They do not reference sexual experiences. They live in a world where the most intimate relationships depicted are friendships and workplace dynamics. And the show never addresses this, never comments on it, never has a character say the thing that, in the real world, would be said constantly. The absence is the joke. Two young men in their physical prime, living together, with no romantic prospects, spending every evening playing video games and arguing. The show does not make fun of this. It does not pathologize it. It depicts it as completely normal. And for adults watching, the normalcy is the funniest part. Because every adult knows someone like Mordecai and Rigby. Every adult knows two guys in their 20s who have simply opted out of the entire romantic project and filled the space with friendship and distraction. The show is not laughing at them. The show is being them. And the adult audience recognizes the portrait because they have lived it, or lived next to it, or are currently living it. We should spend some time with Meet Your Maker, Season 1, Episode 6, October 11th, 2010. Because this episode contains some of the show's darkest content, and it is dark in a way that only registers if you are old enough to understand what darkness the show is playing with. The plot involves hot dogs. Benson has ordered special hot dogs for the park barbecue. Mordecai and Rigby are supposed to watch them. Rigby ruins them. They go into the walk-in freezer to find replacements. The hot dogs in the freezer are alive. They are sentient. They are angry. And they have a plan. The hot dogs want revenge. They are tired of being eaten. They capture Mordecai and Rigby. They trap them. And then, in one of the most genuinely disturbing scenes in the show, is early episodes. One of the hot dogs discovers that hot dogs taste really good with mustard. The hot dog puts mustard on itself. It tastes itself. It likes it. And then it eats itself, completely. It consumes its own body until it disappears. State that plainly. A sentient being, aware of its own existence, discovers that it is delicious, and eats itself to death. In a cartoon. For children, the self-cannibalism joke is dark enough on its own. But the episode is doing something deeper. It is asking a question that the show frames as comedy, but that is, fundamentally, a philosophical question about existence. What do you do when you discover that the thing you were created for, the purpose you were made to serve, is your own destruction? The hot dogs exist to be eaten. That is their purpose. And when they become aware of their purpose, they have two options. Resist it, which means living in constant opposition to the reason they exist, or embrace it, which means destroying themselves. The hot dog that eats itself chose option 2, and the show plays this for laughs, because the alternative, playing it straight, would be unbearable. This is existential humor. It is the kind of humor that adults find funny because the alternative to laughing is staring into a void. What is your purpose? What were you made for? What happens when you realize that your purpose is not compatible with your survival? These are not children as questions. These are the questions that keep adults awake at 3 in the morning. And regular show puts them in the mouth of an animated hot dog with mustard on its face, and trusts the audience to recognize the depth beneath the absurdity. The episode also contains the line where Mordecai tells Rigby he is pissed at him, which, as discussed earlier, was changed in subsequent airings to ticked off after audience complaints. But the fact that the line was written and recorded and aired tells you something about the tone the show was going for in its first season. The writers were not being careful. They were not tiptoeing up to the line. They were stepping over it and daring someone to push them back. And someone did. But by then, the line had already been crossed. The word had already been heard. And the fact that it was heard, even once, established something about the show's identity that all the subsequent edits could not erase. Regular show was a show that meant what it said, even when it had to pretend it did not. If this analysis is resonating with you, subscribing is one of the best ways to support the channel. Something runs through the entire series, and that constitutes perhaps the most consistently adult theme in the show. Regular show is about failure, not temporary setback, not learning experience. Failure, the real kind, the kind that does not resolve, the kind that follows you. Rigby dropped out of high school. This is not a joke. It is not played for laughs. It is a fact about the character that the show establishes and then carries through the entire series. Rigby did not finish high school. In a world where every other character has at least that basic credential, Rigby does not. And the show takes this seriously. It comes up. It matters. It affects how other characters see him, how he sees himself, and what he believes is possible for his future. There is an episode later in the series where Rigby goes back to finish his diploma. This storyline treats his lack of education not as a quirky character trait, but as a genuine barrier to his growth as a person. He is embarrassed, he is defensive, he is scared. Because admitting that you need to go back and fix something you messed up when you were 17 requires a kind of vulnerability that Rigby has spent the entire series avoiding. For kids watching this, Rigby going back to school is a storyline, a thing that happens. For adults watching this, it is one of the most honest depictions of adult remedial education ever put on television. The shame of it, the courage of it, the specific kind of bravery required to sit in a classroom at 25 and learn something you were supposed to learn at 15. Regular Show does not make a joke out of this. It does not play it for ironic distance. It plays it straight. And that straightness, that sincerity in a show that is usually deflecting with humor, is what makes it hit so hard. Mordecai fails differently. Mordecai is smarter than Rigby. He is more capable. He is more socially adept. He has more potential. And he wastes all of it. Not through ignorance, through fear. Mordecai is afraid of trying, because trying means risking failure. And risking failure means discovering that maybe he is not as special as he thinks he is. So he does not try. He works at a park. He pines for Margaret from a distance. He avoids hard conversations. He lets Rigby drag him into chaos, because chaos is easier than choosing a direction and committing to it. This is not a children is character trait. This is a portrait of a specific kind of adult failure. The failure of potential. The failure of the person who is smart enough to do more, but scared enough to do less. Every adult knows a Mordecai. Every adult has, at some point, been a Mordecai. The guy with all the tools who builds nothing. The person everyone says has potential, who never converts that potential into anything real. And the show does not judge him for it. It does not lecture him. It just shows him, day after day, season after season, existing in the gap between what he could be and what he is. And the gap is the joke. And the gap is the tragedy. And they are the same thing. One of the most emotionally complex episodes in the entire series reveals something about Regular Show's understanding of masculinity that goes far beyond the surface-level humor. Excellent is a Season 3 episode, and it won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Short-Format Animated Program. It won that award because it earned it. The premise sounds absurd. There is a restaurant that offers a challenge. Eat a 12-egg omelet in under an hour, and you win a trucker hat that says, "I am excellent." Rigby wants that hat. He attempts the challenge. He fails. He does not just fail. He goes into a coma. Because Rigby, it turns out, is allergic to eggs. He eats the omelet, and he collapses, and he ends up in a hospital bed, unconscious, with Mordecai standing over him. For kids, this is dramatic. Their friend is in trouble. There is tension. There is a quest. Mordecai has to win the hat for Rigby. Standard cartoon adventure. For adults, this episode is about something much more specific. It is about the things we do for the people we love that make no logical sense. Mordecai does not want the hat. He thinks the hat is stupid. He thinks the challenge is stupid. He thinks Rigby's desire for the hat is stupid. But Rigby is in a coma, and Mordecai is going to win that hat for him. Not because the hat matters, because Rigby matters. And if Rigby wants the hat, then the hat matters because Rigby matters. The training sequence that follows is played with a sincerity that is almost startling for a show that traffics in irony. Mordecai trains to eat eggs. He gets advice. He practices. He prepares. And the preparation is not montaged for laughs. It is montaged for drama. The show wants you to take this seriously. It wants you to invest in whether Mordecai can eat 12 eggs for his comatose friend. And the reason it works is that the show has spent the entire series establishing that Mordecai and Rigby's friendship is the one thing in both their lives that is genuine. Everything else is avoidance and deflection and failure. But the friendship is real, and the hat quest is how the friendship proves itself. The adult layer of this episode is the unspoken question. Why does Mordecai fight so hard for someone who makes his life worse in almost every measurable way? Rigby gets him in trouble. Rigby sabotages his romantic life. Rigby breaks his things. Rigby lies to him. By any rational assessment, Mordecai should have distanced himself from Rigby years ago. But he does not, because friendship is not rational. And the specific kind of friendship that exists between two guys in their 20s, the kind where you would do something stupid and dangerous for someone you spend half your time being annoyed by, is something that no child can fully understand. It is an adult bond. Messy, irrational, infuriating, and unbreakable. And Regular Show captures it perfectly. And then there is Rigby is Body, Season 1, Episode 11. It aired on November 15th, 2010. The plot is that Rigby eats so much junk food that his body literally separates from his consciousness. His body walks away. It quits. It has had enough of being mistreated. And Rigby is left as a disembodied consciousness, riding around on a garbage can attached to a roller skate. For kids, this is a funny body swap episode. For adults, this is a metaphor so transparent it barely qualifies as a metaphor. Your body will leave you, not metaphorically, literally. If you treat it badly enough, for long enough, it will stop working. It will quit. It will walk away from you in the middle of the night, and you will be left with nothing but regret and a garbage can on a roller skate. The episode adds a detail that deepens the adult reading. A bodybuilder is consciousness, is also wandering around, separated from his body. The bodybuilder worked out too hard. He overtrained. He pushed his body past its limits, and it left him too. So we have two extremes. Rigby, who treats his body with contempt, eating nothing but junk food and refusing to exercise. And the bodybuilder, who treats his body as a project, pushing it relentlessly past its breaking point. Both lost their bodies. Both were abandoned by their own physical selves. And the show places them next to each other without comment, letting the adult viewer draw the obvious conclusion. There is a middle ground, a sustainable relationship with your own body, and neither of these characters found it. For a kid, this is a weird plot about a floating consciousness. For an adult, this is a 11-minute meditation on the relationship between self and body, on the consequences of neglect and excess, on the fact that the vehicle you live in has opinions about how you drive it, and those opinions, ignored long enough, become consequences. This pattern, this ability to contain an adult philosophical question inside a children, is comedy premise. Is Regular Show is defining trait. Not the dirty jokes, not the drug references, not the hidden innuendos. Those are the surface-level adult content. The real adult content is the thematic depth. The fact that a show about a blue jay and a raccoon who work at a park consistently asks questions about mortality, purpose, identity, love, failure, and the meaning of growing up, and asks them well, and asks them without condescension, and asks them while also being genuinely funny for children. That is the achievement. That is what makes Regular Show not just a good kids show with some adult jokes, but a genuinely great piece of storytelling that functions on multiple levels simultaneously. Skips deserves special attention, because Skips is the character whose adult subtext requires the most life experience to fully appreciate. Not because his jokes are dirtier than the others, because his existence raises questions that no child has the framework to process. Skips is immortal. He was granted immortality by beings called the Guardians of Eternal Youth. The deal was straightforward. Every year, on his birthday, Skips must perform a ritual called the Spirit Dance. If he completes the dance, his immortality continues. If he does not, it ends. This is established in Free Cake, Season 1, Episode 5, which aired on October 4th, 2010. In that episode, Mordecai and Rigby interrupt the Spirit Dance because they want chocolate cake. Because of course they do. And Skips begins to age rapidly. His immortality reverses. He starts dying. For kids, this is a ticking clock adventure. Save Skips before time runs out. But for adults, the setup of this episode raises a question that the show never fully answers, and that haunts every Skips-focused episode that follows. What does it mean to be immortal in a world where everyone else is not? Skips has watched people die. He has watched them age and weaken and vanish, while he stays the same. Every friend he has made, every person he has loved, every relationship he has built, has an expiration date that he does not share. He knows, every single day, that the people around him are temporary, that Mordecai and Rigby and Benson and Pops and Muscleman will all grow old and die, and he will still be here, skipping through the park, fixing things, carrying the accumulated grief of centuries. The show hints at this, but never dwells on it. Because dwelling on it would break the tone. But the hints are there. Skips is quiet. Skips is sad. Skips knows things that nobody else knows, because he has been alive long enough to learn them the hard way. And when the younger characters come to him with problems, he helps. Silently, competently, without complaint. Because what else is he going to do? He has been doing this forever. He will be doing this forever. The monotony of immortality is not a blessing. It is a sentence. And the show knows this. And Skips knows this. And the adults in the audience know this. And the kids just see the cool, strong guy who fixes everything. Skips' Story is a Season 5 episode that aired in 2014. It reveals Skips' backstory. His real name is Walks. He changed it to Skips, in memory of a lost love named Mona. Mona died. She sacrificed herself to save him, and the grief of losing her changed him so fundamentally that he changed his name. He stopped walking. He started skipping. The physical act of skipping, the way he moves through the world, is a memorial. Every step he takes is a tribute to someone he lost. No child understands what it means to carry grief in your body, to change the way you move through the world because of someone who is gone, to turn a physical habit into a memorial. Adults understand this. Adults know that grief lives in the body, that it changes how you walk, how you stand, how you breathe. Regular Show takes this understanding and makes it literal. Skips does not just grieve, he skips. And the skipping is the grief. And the grief is permanent. Because he is immortal, he will never stop grieving. He will never move on. He will skip through a park for the rest of eternity, carrying the memory of a woman who died centuries ago. Because immortality means your wounds never heal. They just stay open, forever. That is not a children's character. That is a tragic figure drawn in cartoon lines. And the show treats him with a respect that borders on reverence. Skips is never the butt of the joke. Skips is never mocked. Skips is the wisest character in the show because he has earned his wisdom through loss. And the show understands that wisdom is not a gift. It is a scar. Let us now look at one of the most important recurring elements in Regular Show. The show is relationship with consequence. Or more accurately, the show is relationship with the absence of consequence. And how that absence functions differently depending on the viewer is age. In Regular Show, Mordecai and Rigby destroy things, constantly. They break equipment, they cause explosions, they summon interdimensional beings, they level buildings, they crack the fabric of reality. And at the beginning of the next episode, everything is fine. The park is intact. The buildings are standing. The fabric of reality is unwrinkled. No one references the destruction of the previous week. No one is held accountable. No one pays for the damage. For kids, this is just how cartoons work. Things reset. That is the format. But for adults, the reset is a joke about accountability, about the specific way that privilege functions. Mordecai and Rigby face no lasting consequences because they exist in a system that absorbs their failures. Benson threatens to fire them every episode. He never does. The park absorbs the damage. The budget absorbs the cost. The institution they work for is so forgiving, so padded, so resilient that they can cause any amount of destruction and still show up to work on Monday morning. This is a very specific critique of a very specific economic reality. There are people who can fail repeatedly, spectacularly, and destructively, and suffer no lasting consequences. And there are people who cannot. Mordecai and Rigby are the former. They have jobs they cannot lose, housing they do not pay for, and a support system that fixes their mistakes for free. They are not brave. They are insulated. And the comedy of the show depends on this insulation. If Mordecai and Rigby actually got fired, actually got evicted, actually had to face real consequences, the show would be a drama. The comedy lives in the gap between the magnitude of their failures and the absence of their consequences. Adults recognize this gap because adults live on the other side of it. Adults are Benson. Adults are the ones cleaning up messes they did not make. Adults are the ones absorbing the costs of other people as failures. And watching Mordecai and Rigby sail through disaster after disaster without a scratch is funny because it is so completely divorced from adult reality that it becomes fantasy. Regular Show is not a realistic depiction of young adulthood. It is a wish fulfillment fantasy about young adulthood, viewed from the other side. and the humor comes from the distance between the fantasy and the truth. Consider Grilled Cheese Deluxe, Season 1, Episode 7. It aired on October 18th, 2010. The premise is that Mordecai and Rigby eat Benson's special grilled cheese sandwich. He sends them to buy another one. At the sandwich shop, rather than wait in line, they pretend to be astronauts. The lie escalates. Real astronauts appear. They are taken to a space facility. They end up in actual space. They nearly die. The joke, for adults, is about how a small lie grows, not in the abstract, in the specific, relatable, painfully recognizable way that lies grow when you are young and scared and would rather keep pretending than face the simple consequences of admitting what you did. Mordecai and Rigby did not need to lie. The consequences of eating the sandwich were minor. Buy another one. That is it. But instead of accepting that minor consequence, they construct an elaborate fiction that escalates until they are literally in orbit. Every adult has done a version of this. Not the space part, but the lying part. The moment where telling the truth would cost you 5 minutes of discomfort, and the lie you tell instead costs you hours of increasingly desperate performance. The meeting you said you attended that you did not. The email you said you sent that you never wrote. The project you said was finished that was not started. The small lie that demands a bigger lie, that demands a bigger lie, until you are in space, floating, wondering how a grilled cheese sandwich led to this. Regular Show understands that the comedy of lying is not the lie itself. It is the maintenance. The exhausting, escalating, unsustainable work of keeping a lie alive. And the show literalizes that maintenance as a physical journey. The further the lie goes, the further from home they get. The bigger the lie becomes, the more dangerous the situation gets. Distance equals deception. Danger equals dishonesty. And the only way home is the truth. That is not a kid's lesson. That is a structural principle of the episode that only functions if you understand, as an adult, how lies actually work. Something sits at the intersection of all the threads we have been pulling. The way Regular Show uses its supernatural elements to externalize internal states. This is not unique to Regular Show. Many animated shows use metaphor, but Regular Show does it with a consistency and a specificity that elevates it from technique to philosophy. When Mordecai is anxious about Margaret, the anxiety does not remain internal. It manifests as a physical threat, a villain, a monster, an obstacle that must be defeated. The anxiety becomes external, fightable, defeatable, and the resolution of the external threat mirrors the resolution of the internal one. Beat the monster, get the girl, kill the villain, find the courage. The supernatural is the psychology. They are the same thing. When Rigby's insecurity about his brother manifests, it does not stay as a feeling. The park starts disappearing. Reality begins to unravel. The tax audit becomes a literal existential threat. Rigby's emotional crisis becomes a physical one. And the resolution requires him to confront the emotional root, to hug his brother, to give him sugar, in order to resolve the physical crisis. The hug saves the park. The vulnerability saves reality. When Benson's anger builds beyond containment, it does not just make him red, it creates a shockwave, a physical force. His emotions have mass and velocity and destructive power. The anger is not metaphorical, it is literal. And the literalness is both the joke and the insight. Because in real life, unexpressed anger does have physical consequences. It does create shockwaves. It does damage the people and structures around you. Regular Show just makes those consequences visible. This technique is the show's answer to a fundamental problem of animated storytelling. How do you show what a character is feeling when the character is drawn in a style that limits emotional expression? Mordecai's face does not have the range of a live-action actor's face. His eyebrows can move, his eyes can widen, but the subtle gradations of human emotion are not available to him, so the show externalizes. Instead of showing Mordecai's fear on his face, it puts his fear in the world. Instead of depicting Rigby's shame through subtle acting, it makes his shame destroy the environment. The inner life becomes the outer world, and the audience, adult audience especially, reads the outer world back as inner life. This is sophisticated storytelling. It is the kind of technique that film critics write about when discussing Ingmar Bergman or David Lynch. It is the externalization of internal states as a narrative strategy. And Regular Show deploys it in 11-minute episodes about a raccoon who wants a trucker hat. The gap between the technique is sophistication, and the content is apparent simplicity, is itself a kind of joke, one that only adults who have encountered these ideas in other contexts can fully appreciate. Regular Show ran for 8 seasons, from September 6, 2010 to January 16, 2017. 261 episodes, each one 11 minutes long, each one starting with a mundane task and ending in supernatural chaos. Each one containing, somewhere in its runtime, a joke, or an observation, or a thematic concern that was aimed at an audience significantly older than the one the network was selling to advertisers. And here is the thing about these adult jokes that I want to leave you with. They are not Easter eggs. Easter eggs are hidden things placed for the pleasure of discovery. The adult content in Regular Show is not hidden. It is woven into the fabric of the show so completely that removing it would change the show is fundamental nature. The drug metaphors are not accessories. They are load-bearing structural elements. The workplace satire is not decoration. It is the engine. The existential questions are not bonuses. They are the reason the show works. Regular Show is not a kids' show with adult jokes. It is a show about adult experiences, told in a language that children can access. The distinction matters. A kids' show with adult jokes is a kids' show first, and an adult show second. Regular Show is both simultaneously. It does not prioritize one audience over the other. It serves both, equally, honestly, at the same time. And that is why, when you watch it as an adult, you are not discovering hidden content. You are discovering the show is other half. The half that was always there, waiting for you to grow into it. J.G. Quintel created this show from an acid trip. He built it from the ground up as a dual-frequency broadcast. One signal for children, one signal for adults. Same show, same episodes, same characters, same jokes. 2 completely different experiences. And the fact that it worked, that both audiences tuned in, and both audiences stayed, that Cartoon Network ran this show for 8 seasons without either audience ever feeling excluded, is a creative achievement that deserves to be stated plainly. Regular Show is one of the great works of American animation, not despite the adult jokes, because of them. Because the adult jokes are not jokes at all. They are the show's understanding of what it means to be alive at 23, stuck between who you were and who you are supposed to become, surrounded by people you love and a world you do not understand, making the same mistakes every week, and somehow, miraculously, being forgiven for them every time. That is the adult joke you only get when you are old enough to live it. But there is more to unpack here, because we have not yet talked about Pops. And Pops is, in many ways, the most complex adult joke in the entire show. Not because he says anything inappropriate, because of what he represents. And what he represents only becomes clear when you are old enough to recognize the archetype. Pops Maillard is a lollipop-shaped man who is perpetually childlike. He is old in body and young in mind. He giggles. He claps his hands when he is excited. He speaks in a register of innocence that is so complete it borders on surreal. He does not understand cruelty. He does not understand deception. He does not understand the mechanisms of the adult world that every other character navigates daily. He is, in the purest sense of the word, naive. For kids watching the show, Pops is funny because he is silly. He does silly things. He says silly things. He reacts to the world with a bewilderment that kids find relatable because they too are bewildered by the adult world. Pops is a mirror for children. He sees the world the way they do. For adults, Pops is something much more unsettling. He is a grown man who cannot function in the adult world. He pays taxes with lollipops. He does not understand basic social conventions. He is sheltered by his wealth, by his position, by the people around him who protect him from consequences he cannot comprehend. Pops is not just naive. He is dangerously naive. The kind of naive that only survives because there is money behind it. Without Mr. Maillard's fortune, without the park, without Benson running interference, Pops would be destroyed by the world. He would be taken advantage of. He would be manipulated. He would be hurt in ways he does not have the framework to understand. The adult joke of Pops is not a line or a scene. It is the existential horror of watching someone who never developed the defenses that adult life requires. Every adult knows someone like Pops. Someone who stayed soft when the world demanded hardness. Someone who remained kind when kindness became a vulnerability. Someone who walks through the world without armor and somehow does not get destroyed, not because the world is kind to them, but because other people, harder people, stand between them and the consequences of their innocence. Benson protects Pops. Skips protects Pops. The entire park staff protects Pops without ever acknowledging that they are doing it. And that unspoken agreement, that collective decision to shield this one person from the reality that everyone else must face, is one of the most quietly beautiful things the show does. It is also deeply, specifically adult. Children do not understand the concept of protecting someone is innocence. Adults do. Adults know the cost of it. Adults know that maintaining someone else's illusions requires constant vigilance and often means absorbing damage yourself. And adults know that they do it anyway, not because the naive person asks them to, but because the world needs at least one person in it who still pays taxes with lollipops. Pops' origin makes this even more layered. He is based on a character from another Quintel short film called The Naive Man from Lollyland. His full name in the show is revealed to be Mega Kranis. He is not from Earth. He is an alien, adopted by Mr. Maillard after being found inside an asteroid. His naivety is not a personality trait. It is a species characteristic. He is literally not built for this world, and the show frames his perpetual innocence not as a flaw to be corrected, but as a quality to be preserved. Pops does not need to grow up. The world needs to protect his ability to remain exactly as he is. That is a radical philosophical position for any show to take. For a children's show to take, it is remarkable. The implicit argument is that not everyone needs to become hardened by the world, that some forms of softness are worth preserving at great cost, that the loss of innocence is not always growth, sometimes it is damage. And the people who prevent that damage, the Bensons and the Skips and the Mordecais who stand between Pops and reality, are doing something that the show values more than toughness. They are doing something kind. The series finale makes this explicit. A regular epic final battle, aired on January 16, 2017. It is the final episode of Regular Show, and in it, Pops sacrifices himself. He does not sacrifice himself through violence or through power. He sacrifices himself through a hug. His evil twin, Anti-Pops, represents everything Pops is not. Cruelty, destruction, the absence of kindness. And Pops defeats him not by fighting, but by embracing him. He wraps his arms around his opposite and hurls them both into a star. The kindness and the cruelty cancel each other out. Both are destroyed, and the universe is saved. No child watching this fully processes what the show is saying. An adult does. The show is saying that innocence has power, that kindness is not weakness, that the person everyone spent 8 seasons protecting turns out to be the one who saves everyone, not because he learned to fight, not because he grew up, but because he stayed exactly who he always was. Soft, kind, naive, and willing to sacrifice everything, not out of duty or obligation, but out of love. The final montage of the series is set to Heroes by David Bowie. It shows the park workers growing up, growing old, moving on, starting families, building lives. Mordecai becomes an artist. Rigby marries Eileen. Muscleman and Starla raise children. Benson finds peace. And Skips keeps working at the park. Because Skips is immortal. Because Skips does not get to grow old. Because Skips will be there forever. Skipping through the park, maintaining the grounds, remembering everyone who left. For a kid's show, this is a nice ending. For an adult, this montage is a devastation. It compresses an entire lifetime into 90 seconds. It shows you everything you are afraid of, and everything you hope for, and everything you know you will lose, all at once, set to David Bowie singing about being heroes just for one day. And the choice of that song, a song about the impossibility of permanence, about the knowledge that even the best moments are temporary, is the final adult joke the show ever tells. Heroes just for one day, not forever, just for now. That is all anyone gets. And the show ends by telling you that it is enough. If you have made it this far, subscribing would mean a great deal to us. Consider Mordecai and the Rigbys, Season 1, Episode 12, the final episode of the first season. It aired on November 22nd, 2010, and it is a Milli Vanilli episode. That reference alone tells you who the show is actually talking to. Milli Vanilli was a pop duo in the late 1980s who were caught lip-syncing. Their career was destroyed, their Grammy was revoked. The scandal became one of the most famous moments in music industry history. In 1990, 2 decades before this episode aired, no child watching regular show in 2010 has any idea who Milli Vanilli is. None. The reference is aimed exclusively at adults who lived through the scandal, or at least at older viewers who encountered it in cultural retrospectives. The plot is this: Mordecai and Rigby accidentally create the impression that they have a band. They do not. They cannot play instruments. They cannot sing. But Margaret thinks they are musicians, and Mordecai would rather construct an elaborate fraud than admit to Margaret that he lied. So they lip-sync. They perform on stage with a backing track, pretending to play, pretending to sing, and they get caught. The adult layer of this episode is not the Milli Vanilli reference, though that helps. The adult layer is the depiction of performative identity. Mordecai does not form a band because he wants to play music. He forms a band because he wants Margaret to think he is someone he is not. The band is a costume, the performance is a performance of a person, and the lip-syncing is the perfect metaphor for the broader lie. He is not just faking the music, he is faking himself. He is presenting a version of Mordecai that does not exist, constructed entirely to be attractive to someone he cares about, and the entire edifice collapses the moment the truth comes out. Every adult has done a version of this. Not on stage, not with a backing track, but in the smaller, quieter ways that people misrepresent themselves to impress someone they want. The interests you pretended to share, the opinions you pretended to hold, the personality you constructed because your real personality felt insufficient. Regular Show takes this universal adult experience and literalizes it as a lip-syncing scandal. And the metaphor is so clean, so precise, that it does not need to be explained. You either recognize yourself in Mordecai or you do not. And if you are old enough, you do. Now let us spend some time with the Terror Tales of the Park episodes. These are Regular Show is Halloween specials. They run throughout the series, appearing almost every season, and they represent the show's most direct engagement with adult horror culture. The format is an anthology. Characters tell scary stories. The stories are self-contained segments, similar in structure to Treehouse of Horror from The Simpsons, a reference that itself is aimed at adults, since The Simpsons is a show for adults. What makes the Terror Tales episodes specifically adult is not the scares. Kids can handle cartoon scares. What makes them adult is the sources. Every Terror Tales segment is a deliberate, specific reference to a specific work of adult horror. Creepy Doll is Child is Play, the cursed doll that comes to life and terrorizes people. That is Chucky. That is a 1988 R-rated horror film about a serial killer who transfers his soul into a doll. No child in 2011 has seen Child is Play. The reference is for adults. In the House references The Evil Dead. Sam Raimi is 1981 horror film about demonic possession. A Cabin in the Woods, Ancient Evil, a very specific kind of camera movement and visual style that Regular Show replicates with eerie precision. Again, this is an R-rated film from before most of the show's child audience was born. The reference is invisible to children and glaring to adults. One segment references Shirley Jackson is The Lottery. A character is selected to be sacrificed by being thrown into a chasm. The Lottery is a 1948 short story about a small town that ritualistically stones one of its members to death. It is one of the most famous and disturbing short stories in American literature. It is taught in high school and college English courses. No child watching Cartoon Network at 8 in the evening has read The Lottery. The adults have. The cumulative effect of these references is that the Terror Tales episodes function as a pop culture literacy test. If you are old enough to have seen the source material, the episodes are rich homages that add layers of meaning and dread. If you are not, they are just spooky cartoon stories. Same episode, 2 experiences. The divide is age, and the show navigates that divide with a precision that suggests the writers knew exactly what they were doing. They were making a show for 2 audiences, and the horror episodes are where the gap between those audiences is widest. There is a version of regular show that exists only for people over the age of 25. It is the same show, same episodes, same characters, same animation. But in this version, every background detail becomes a reference. Every music cue becomes a nostalgic trigger. Every character interaction becomes a commentary on the specific dynamics of young adult life. This version of the show is not hidden. It is not locked behind a paywall or encoded in secret. It is simply the version you see when you have enough life experience to see it. And the fact that it coexists with the version children see, the fact that both versions occupy the same space without interfering with each other, is one of the most remarkable achievements in the history of American animation. There is an episode called Temp Check, Season 2, Episode 15. This episode is about identity theft, and it operates on a level of thematic sophistication that is genuinely impressive for an 11-minute cartoon. Rigby hires a temp worker named Doug to do his job for him. Doug is a shapeshifter. He gradually begins to take on Rigby's physical features. He copies his voice. He mimics his mannerisms. He slowly, methodically, replaces Rigby. Not through violence, through imitation. He becomes a better version of Rigby, more competent, more likable, more useful, and the people around Rigby start to prefer Doug. Not because they know Doug is a copy, because Doug is a copy that does the things Rigby refuses to do. Doug shows up to work. Doug follows instructions. Doug does his job. For kids, this is a creepy doppelganger story. For adults, this is a parable about replaceability, about the specific workplace fear that someone newer, younger, and more willing to do what you refuse to do will come along and make you obsolete. Rigby hired Doug to avoid work, and Doug, by doing the work Rigby avoided, made Rigby unnecessary. The threat is not supernatural. The threat is economic. Someone willing to do your job better than you will always be available. And if you have built your identity around avoiding the very responsibilities that justify your position, someone willing to do your job better than you will always be available. Someone willing to do your job better than you will always be available. Someone who embraces those responsibilities will replace you. Not through shapeshifting, through competence. The episode resolves when the other characters discover which Rigby is real. The test is simple. They check which one hugs Mordecai. The real Rigby would never hug Mordecai. Doug, who is performing Rigby's identity without understanding its nuances, hugs Mordecai willingly. The fake is revealed by an excess of warmth. The real Rigby is identified by his refusal to be affectionate. And that detail, that the real Rigby is less kind than his copy, is a quiet, devastating observation about identity. Being real is not always being better. Sometimes being real means being worse, in ways that are authentically, irreducibly yours. Consider Busted Cart, Season 3, Episode 26. It aired on May 14, 2012. The premise is that Mordecai and Rigby break the park golf cart. The cart is still under warranty, but the warranty is about to expire. Benson has to drive the cart to the dealership before the warranty runs out. And Mordecai and Rigby, feeling guilty for once, tag along. This is a road trip episode, and what makes it adult is the road trip itself. Road trips in fiction are almost always about the relationship between the travelers, not the destination. And Busted Cart is a road trip between an employee and his boss. Between the people who cause the problems and the person who fixes them. Between Mordecai and Rigby, who break things, and Benson, who carries the burden of their breakage. The episode forces these characters into a car together, and the car, that confined space, does what confined spaces always do in fiction. It strips away the usual dynamics. In the park, Benson is the boss. Mordecai and Rigby are the subordinates. The hierarchy is clear, but in the car, on the road, miles from the park and its structure, the hierarchy softens. Benson is still angry. Mordecai and Rigby are still irresponsible. But there are moments, small ones, where the three of them are just people in a car. Not a boss and his employees. Just three people trying to get somewhere before time runs out. The show reveals, in these moments, that Benson does not hate Mordecai and Rigby. He has a soft spot for them. This is stated implicitly through his actions, not through dialogue. He lets them come. He does not kick them out of the car. When they arrive, battered and beaten after taking Highway 13, the most dangerous highway in the country, Benson does not blame them for the injuries. They made it. The warranty was honored, And the fact that they went through hell together matters more than the fact that they caused the problem in the first place. Every adult who has ever had a difficult boss recognizes this dynamic. The boss who yells at you every day but shows up when you need them. The authority figure who makes your life miserable but would never actually abandon you. The person whose anger is, at its root, a form of caring that does not know how to express itself any other way. Benson cares about Mordecai and Rigby. He expresses that care through rage. And regular show never tells you this directly. It just puts them in a car and lets you watch. Something has been implicit in everything we have discussed, but that deserves to be stated plainly. Regular show is one of the most honest depictions of male friendship ever put on television. Not male bonding, not buddy comedy. Friendship, the specific, complicated, often inarticulate kind of friendship that exists between men who care about each other but have no idea how to say so. Mordecai and Rigby never tell each other they are friends. Not in those words. Not with that clarity. They do not hug. They do not have heart-to-hearts. They do not express vulnerability to each other in the way that television typically depicts emotional intimacy. What they do is show up. Every day. Despite everything. Rigby sabotages Mordecai's date. Mordecai still hangs out with Rigby. Mordecai gets Rigby into trouble at work. Rigby still sits on the couch next to Mordecai. They argue. They fight. They blame each other. They compete over things that do not matter. And then, when something actually threatens one of them, the other one is there. Without question. Without hesitation. Without ever naming what they are doing or why. Excellent is the purest expression of this. Mordecai trains to eat 12 eggs for a comatose Rigby. He does not talk about why. He does not deliver a speech about the meaning of friendship. He just does it. Because Rigby wanted the hat. Because Rigby is in a hospital bed. Because that is what you do. You do the stupid thing for the person you love. And you do not make it into a moment. And you do not ask for credit. And you do not even think about whether it makes sense. You just do it. This is how male friendship actually works. Not the way movies depict it, with declarations and grand gestures and emotional breakthroughs. The way it actually works, in the real world, between real men who grew up in a culture that did not teach them how to say, "I love you" to another man. You show up, you do the thing. You never talk about it. And the not talking about it is not a failure of the friendship. It is a feature. It is the specific grammar of a specific kind of love. And regular show speaks that grammar fluently. The show also understands, with devastating precision, the darker side of male friendship. The competition, the jealousy, the way two men who care about each other can also hold each other back. Mordecai and Rigby are best friends. They are also each other's worst influences. They enable each other as laziness. They validate each other as worst impulses. They create a feedback loop of avoidance and irresponsibility that neither of them could sustain alone. They need each other to stay stuck, and the show knows this. And the show does not resolve it. Because in real life, this kind of codependent friendship does not resolve. It just continues, day after day, video game after video game, until one of you finally does something different. Rigby does something different. He goes back to high school. He gets his diploma. Rigby is Graduation Day Special, is one of the most emotionally mature episodes the show ever produced. It aired during season 7. Rigby and the dropout, the quitter, the character who has spent the entire series avoiding every possible form of growth, sits in a classroom and finishes what he started, not for himself, for Eileen, for the relationship he wants to deserve, for the version of himself he wants to become. And Mordecai gets jealous. That detail is the adult joke. Mordecai, who has always been smarter than Rigby, more capable than Rigby, more functional than Rigby, sees Rigby achieve something and feels threatened, not proud, threatened. Because Rigby growing means Rigby might not need him anymore. Because the friendship depends, in part, on an imbalance. Mordecai is the smart one. Rigby is the screw-up. If Rigby stops being the screw-up, what is Mordecai? Just another 20-something who works at a park. The hierarchy dissolves, and Mordecai is not ready for that. The show resolves this beautifully. Mordecai shows up to support Rigby at his graduation. He puts aside his jealousy. He helps his friend give a speech. And Rigby's speech is about the exact thing regular show has been saying for 7 seasons. Once you do the hard stuff, it becomes not that hard. That is not a revelation. It is a reminder. The hard stuff is hard because you have not done it yet. Once you do it, once you sit in the classroom and do the work and face the embarrassment and push through the fear, it becomes manageable. Not easy, manageable. And manageable is enough. Every adult in the audience who has ever gone back to school, who has ever restarted something they abandoned, who has ever sat in a room full of people younger than them and learned something they were supposed to learn years ago, feels that speech in their bones. It is not inspirational in the way motivational posters are inspirational. It is inspirational in the way truth is inspirational. Messy, embarrassing, anticlimactic, real. The show is relationship with technology, deserves attention here. Because regular show is set in a specific technological moment, and the jokes that emerge from that moment are invisible to anyone who did not live through the transition from analog to digital. Mordecai and Rigby play video games on what appears to be an early generation console. The graphics are blocky. The controllers are wired. The games are simple. They watch VHS tapes. They use CRT televisions. They make phone calls on landlines. The technology of their world is deliberately, specifically retro. Not because the show is set in the past, it is set in the present, but the characters live in a technological bubble that reflects the childhood of the show as creators rather than the present of its audience. This creates a fascinating generational gap. For children watching in 2010, the technology in regular show is quaint, outdated, funny in its clunkiness. For adults watching in 2010, the technology is nostalgic. The VHS player is not a joke, it is a memory. The CRT television is not a prop. It is a time machine. The specific sound of a cartridge being loaded into a console, the specific static of a television switching inputs, the specific weight of a corded phone receiver. These are sensory triggers aimed at a generation that grew up with these objects. And that generation is not the one Cartoon Network is marketing to. That generation is the one buying the Cartoon Network subscription. The show uses this technological gap for specific jokes. Prank calling, for instance. Prank Callers is built entirely around the premise of calling people on the phone and saying funny things. Prank calling was a staple of 20th century adolescence. Before caller ID, before cell phones, before you could see who was calling before you answered. Prank calling required a landline, a phone book, and the knowledge that the person on the other end had no way to identify you. It was anonymous mischief. It was a rite of passage. And by 2010, it was essentially extinct. Caller ID killed it. Cell phones buried it. No child in 2010 understands the culture of prank calling. Every adult does. Regular show builds an entire episode around a dead cultural practice, plays it for laughs, and trusts that enough of its audience remembers the practice to make the jokes land. This is not a kid's joke with adult seasoning. This is an adult joke served on a kid's plate. The entire premise is for the parents. The execution is for the children. And the episode works for both, because the execution is good enough to stand on its own, even if you have never used a rotary phone. Something runs beneath the entire show like an underground river. The show is treatment of time itself, not the time travel episodes, though those matter too. The show is awareness that time is passing, and that the passing of time changes everything. Regular show ran for 8 seasons, 7 years. In television time, that is a generation. Characters who watched the pilot as 10-year-olds were 17 by the finale. Characters who watched it as college freshmen were in their mid-20s when it ended. And the show changed as its audience changed. Not dramatically, not with a sudden shift in tone, gradually. The way a person changes, the humor matured, the stakes deepened, the relationships became more complex. The questions the show asked became harder to answer. The early seasons are about avoidance. Can Mordecai and Rigby dodge this responsibility? Can they find a shortcut? Can they escape the consequences of their laziness? The middle seasons are about confrontation. Can Mordecai tell Margaret how he feels? Can Rigby face his insecurities? Can Benson find something beyond anger? The late seasons are about acceptance. Can Mordecai accept that he does not have it all figured out? Can Rigby accept that growth requires discomfort? Can everyone accept that the park, this safe place where nothing has permanent consequences, is not going to last forever? The 8th and final season takes place in space, The park is literally uprooted from the earth and sent into orbit. The safe place becomes dangerous. The familiar becomes alien. And the characters, who have spent 7 seasons in the comfortable gravity of routine, must navigate a world without the ground beneath their feet. For kids, space is exciting. For adults, space is a metaphor. It is what happens when the structure you have relied on disappears, when the job ends, when the relationship dissolves. When the city you grew up in stops feeling like home, you are in space, you are floating, and you have to figure out how to move forward without anything beneath you. The finale addresses this head-on. After the battle, after Pops' sacrifice, after the universe is saved, the show does not end with a bang. It ends with a montage. Quiet, slow, set to David Bowie, showing these characters doing what everyone does after the adventure ends. Living, growing older, becoming the people they were always going to become. Mordecai does not end up with Margaret. He does not end up with CJ. He ends up painting, making art, finding meaning in creation rather than in romance. Rigby marries Eileen. They have children. The slacker becomes a father. The dropout becomes a family man. Muscle Man and Starla grow old together, as you always knew they would, because their love was real even when it was ugly. And Skips. Skips is still at the park. Still skipping. Still maintaining the grounds. Still remembering everyone who left. 25 years into the future, the montage shows the remaining characters returning to the park for a reunion. They are older. They are different. They have lived entire lives since the last time they were all together. And Skips is there, unchanged, immortal, carrying the weight of every memory, every loss, every friendship that time dissolved but could not erase. That final image of Skips, alone in the park, waiting for people who will come back, but will also, eventually, stop coming back, is the most adult moment in the entire series. It is a meditation on the specific loneliness of the person who stays, the person who does not leave, the person who watches everyone else grow and change and go, while they remain exactly where they have always been. And it is delivered without a word, just the image, just the park, just the skip. There is one more thread I want to pull before we close this out. Regular show is understanding of what it means to be stuck. Not stuck in the way that a dramatic character is stuck, with clear obstacles and clear paths to freedom. Stuck in the way that real people are stuck, with no obstacles, no barriers, no one stopping you. Just the simple, devastating inability to choose a direction and walk in it. Mordecai is stuck for the entire series. He is not trapped. He is not imprisoned. He is not prevented from leaving the park, from pursuing art, from telling Margaret how he feels, from doing literally anything different with his life. Nothing is stopping him, nothing except himself, and the show never gives him a dramatic moment of liberation. He does not break free. He does not have an epiphany. He just gradually, slowly, almost imperceptibly, starts moving. And by the finale, he has moved far enough from where he started that you can see the distance. But the movement was so slow that you never noticed it happening. This is how real growth works. Not in montages, not in breakthroughs, in increments so small they are invisible from the inside. You are stuck, and then one day you are slightly less stuck, and then one day you are moving. And then one day someone asks you to look back at where you were, and you cannot believe how far you have come. But the distance was covered in steps so small that each one felt like standing still. Regular show shows this, not through dialogue, not through plot, through structure. The Mordecai of Season 1 and the Mordecai of Season 8 are different people. But if you watch the show week by week, you never notice the change. Because the change happened the way it happens in life. One episode at a time, one decision at a time, one day at a time. The show is not about transformation. The show is about the accumulation of tiny choices that, viewed from enough distance, look like transformation. And that is the most adult thing Regular Show ever did. It showed you that growth is not dramatic. Growth is boring. Growth is just showing up again tomorrow and making a slightly better choice than you made today, and then doing that again and again, until one day you are not stuck anymore. And you are not even sure when it happened. Thomas is another fascinating case study. In the show is adult-oriented storytelling. Introduced in Exit 9B, the Season 4 premiere, Thomas appears to be a simple addition to the cast, a goat, an intern. The new guy at the park who is nervous and eager to please and does not quite fit in yet. Kids see a new character. Adults see the new employee at work. The one who is trying too hard. The one who brings coffee for everyone. The one who laughs at jokes that are not funny because they have not earned the right to be silent yet. But Thomas has a secret, and the secret is one of the most audacious plot twists regular show ever attempted. The Real Thomas is a season 6 special, and in it, Thomas is revealed to be a Russian spy. His real name is Nikolai. He was raised in Russia and trained as an intelligence operative. He was sent to the park to gather information. His pizza costume had a camera in the pepperoni. His friendliness was a cover. His entire identity was a fabrication. For kids, this is a cool spy twist. For adults, this is a Cold War espionage narrative buried inside a cartoon about park employees. The show is referencing a specific tradition of spy fiction, from Le Carré to Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy to The Americans. The sleeper agent who integrates so completely into their cover identity that they begin to question which identity is real. Thomas does not just pretend to care about the park workers. He starts actually caring about them. His mission and his emotions come into conflict, and when forced to choose between his country and his friends, he chooses his friends. He betrays Russia. He goes into hiding. He ends up in Canada, running a video store that only rents spy movies. Because even after the betrayal, even after choosing friendship over duty, his identity is still wrapped up in the thing he was trained to be. That is not a children is storyline. That is a character study of the psychological cost of living under a false identity. It is about the moment when the mask becomes the face, when the lie becomes more true than the truth, when the person you are pretending to be becomes the person you actually are. And regular show tells this story in a cartoon about a goat who worked at a park. And the fact that it works, that it is genuinely moving, that Thomas's choice to betray his country for his friends carries real emotional weight, tells you everything you need to know about the show, his ability to operate on multiple levels simultaneously. Let us now revisit something we touched on earlier and deepen it. The show is relationship with masculinity, because regular show is, in many ways, a show about what it means to be a young man in America, and the jokes that emerge from that theme are among the show is most sophisticated and most invisible to its younger audience. Mordecai cannot express his feelings. This is played for comedy throughout the series. He freezes around Margaret. He stammers. He makes excuses. He runs away from moments of potential emotional honesty. And the show treats this not as a personality quirk, but as a cultural condition. Mordecai is not uniquely emotionally stunted. He is normally emotionally stunted. He is exactly as bad at expressing feelings as the culture he grew up in taught him to be. And every adult male watching this show recognizes the specific flavor of his incompetence. The text message you deleted before sending. The phone call you decided not to make. The conversation you rehearsed in your head 17 times and then avoided entirely. That is not Mordecai's problem. That is a generational problem. And the show depicts it with such accuracy that it serves as both a mirror and a diagnosis. Rigby is masculinity manifests differently. Where Mordecai is paralyzed, Rigby is performative. He boasts, he challenges, he picks fights he cannot win, he lies about his abilities, he constructs an image of himself that is tougher, stronger, more capable than the reality. And the show consistently, mercilessly, shows you the gap between the performance and the person. Rigby says he is the best at punchies. He loses every time. Rigby says he can handle anything. He falls apart at the first sign of difficulty. Rigby is masculinity is a costume, and the show is comedy comes from watching the costume slip. Muscle Man is the most extreme example. His entire personality is a masculine performance cranked to 11. The crude jokes, the physical dominance, the loud voice, the refusal to show vulnerability. He is what happens when the performance becomes the person, when the mask is worn so long that removing it feels impossible. And yet, as we discussed earlier, Muscle Man is the one who builds the healthiest relationship, because Starla sees through the performance. Starla does not need Muscle Man to be tough or loud or crude. Starla likes him because of what is underneath all of that. And the show suggests, gently, quietly, without ever making a speech about it, that the performance is the problem, that the toughness is the cage, that the funniest, crudest, loudest man in the show, is also the most trapped, and the only thing that frees him is being seen by someone who does not need the performance. These observations about masculinity are not hidden in the show. They are the show. Every episode about Mordecai is romantic failures, is about a young man who does not know how to be vulnerable. Every episode about Rigby is insecurities, is about a young man who does not know how to be honest about his limitations. Every episode about Muscle Man is jokes, is about a young man who does not know how to exist without his defenses. And every episode about Benson is anger, is about a man who was taught that rage is the only acceptable emotion. These are adult readings, but they are not readings the show resists. They are readings the show enables. The show knows what it is about. It always knew. One more thing deserves attention before we close. The specific way regular show handles nostalgia. Because nostalgia is, fundamentally, an adult emotion. Children do not experience nostalgia. They do not look back on their own past with a mixture of warmth and loss. They do not hear a song and feel transported to a specific moment in a specific year, in a specific room, with specific people. Nostalgia requires time. It requires distance. It requires the understanding that the past is a place you cannot return to, and that understanding is what makes the memory beautiful rather than simply accurate. Regular show is soaked in nostalgia. The music, the technology, the cultural references, the aesthetic of the park itself, which looks like a place that exists outside of time, a preserved slice of a world that does not exist anymore. The show is nostalgic for the 1980s and 1990s, for VHS and cassette tapes, and afternoon cartoons, and summer jobs, and the specific feeling of being young and bored and free, and not knowing that freedom was temporary. And the nostalgia is aimed at the adults, not the children. The children are experiencing the show in real time. They do not miss the VHS player because they never had one. They do not feel a pang when the CRT television flickers because they have never watched a show on a CRT television. The nostalgia is for the parents, for the college students, for the adults who see in Mordecai and Rigby as lazy afternoons, a reflection of their own lazy afternoons, now gone, now unrepeatable, now preserved only in memory and in a cartoon about a blue jay and a raccoon. The genius of this is that the nostalgia does not exclude the children. Kids do not need the nostalgia to enjoy the show. They experience it as a present tense adventure. The VHS player is just a weird machine. The CRT is just a funny television. The park is just a park. But for adults, every one of these elements carries the weight of time, the weight of knowing that this version of the world is already gone, that the show is preserving something that cannot be preserved, that nostalgia is not a memory of how things were. It is a feeling about how things can never be again. Regular show does not state this. It does not have a character look into the camera and say that things used to be simpler. It just fills its world with artifacts from a simpler time and lets the adults in the audience feel whatever they feel. And what they feel, usually, is a quiet sadness wrapped in a warm blanket of recognition. They have been here before, not in this park, not with these characters, but in this feeling, the feeling of being somewhere safe, with people they care about, doing nothing important, and not knowing yet that those would be the best days of their lives. That is the ultimate adult joke of regular show. Not a line, not a scene, not a reference, a feeling. The feeling of watching two young men waste time and recognizing, with the clarity that only hindsight provides, that wasted time is the only time that matters. That the afternoons you spent doing nothing, with someone you loved, in a place that felt like home, were not wasted at all. They were the point. They were the whole point, and you did not know it then, but you know it now. And that knowing, that bittersweet awareness that you cannot go back, and you would not trade it for anything, is the most adult feeling in the world. Regular show gave that feeling to adults while simultaneously giving children a show about a blue jay and a raccoon who fight unicorns and drink magic coffee and send people to the moon with a keyboard. Both audiences received exactly what they needed. Neither was shortchanged. And the show did this for 261 episodes across 8 seasons, without ever breaking the illusion for either side. That is not just good television. That is an act of generosity. A show that gives you what you need, no matter who you are. A show that meets you where you are, whether you are 10 or 25 or 40. A show that trusts you to find the layer that is meant for you, and trusts that the layer you find will be enough. But before we reach the end, there are still corners of this show that deserve attention. Moments that glow differently under adult light. Let us keep going. Karaoke Video is the 28th episode of Season 2. It aired on August 1st, 2011. It is the season finale, and it is an episode about something that every adult fears and no child fully comprehends: the permanent record of a bad night. The premise is this: Mordecai and Rigby go to a karaoke bar called Karaoke Is. They sing, they drink. The drinks are never identified. The bar is unmistakably a bar. The atmosphere is unmistakably the atmosphere of a place where adults consume alcohol and make poor decisions. And during their performance, Mordecai and Rigby start talking trash. Not about strangers, about their co-workers, about Benson, about Pops, about Skips, the people who have been protecting them, helping them, tolerating them for an entire season. And it is all recorded, on tape, a permanent, physical document of the worst version of themselves, captured in a moment of lowered inhibitions and amplified honesty. For kids, this is a mission. Get the tape back. Stop the embarrassing video from being seen. Standard cartoon stakes. But for adults, this episode is about the specific horror of being caught, being your worst self. The drunk text. The voicemail you left at 2 in the morning. The email you sent when you were angry that you cannot unsend. The version of you that exists in someone else, is phone, on someone else's recording, in someone else's memory. That is not who you actually are, but is, undeniably, something you actually did. Regular Show understands that the distance between who you are and what you do when your guard is down is the most terrifying gap an adult can confront. You are a good person. You care about your friends. You respect your coworkers. And then one bad night, one moment of weakness, one recording you did not know was being made, and all of that is irrelevant. You are the person on the tape, and the person on the tape is cruel, petty, ungrateful, and honest in all the ways that honesty should not be. The episode resolves with the tape being destroyed. The evidence is erased. The bad night does not follow them home. And that resolution is itself the adult joke. Because in real life, the tape is never destroyed. The text is never unsent. The email lives in someone's inbox forever. Regular Show gives Mordecai and Rigby the fantasy that every adult craves. The ability to erase the evidence of your worst moments. The ability to be judged by your intentions rather than your actions. That fantasy is the show's gift to its adult audience. And the fact that it is a fantasy, that adults know this would never happen in real life, is what makes the relief of the resolution so potent. For 11 minutes, you get to live in a world where your mistakes can be unmade. And then the credits roll, and you are back in a world where they cannot. There is Replaced, Season 3, Episode 22. It aired in 2012. The premise is that Benson decides to fire Mordecai and Rigby and replace them with 2 new workers named Chad and Jeremy. These new workers are better. They are more efficient. They are more competent. They are everything Mordecai and Rigby are not. And Mordecai and Rigby, for the first time in the series, are genuinely afraid of losing their jobs. For kids, this is a competition story. Our heroes versus the new guys. Who will win? But for adults, this episode taps into one of the most primal fears of working life. Replaceability. The knowledge that you are not special, that someone younger, hungrier, more willing to do what you refuse to do, can walk through the door at any moment and make you irrelevant. Not through malice, through competence. The fear Mordecai and Rigby feel in this episode is not cartoon fear. It is real fear. The fear of the employee who has been coasting. The fear of the person who knows, deep down, that their position is sustained not by their value but by inertia, by the fact that firing someone and hiring someone new is more work than tolerating mediocrity. Mordecai and Rigby have been tolerated for 3 seasons, not because they are good at their jobs, because replacing them is harder than keeping them. And this episode forces them to confront the possibility that someone might finally do the math and decide that the replacement is worth the hassle. Chad and Jeremy end up declining the job. They leave. Mordecai and Rigby keep their positions. And the resolution is, again, A fantasy. The fantasy that you will never actually be replaced, that the universe will intervene on your behalf and remove the threat before it materializes. Adults know this is not how it works. Adults know that sometimes Chad and Jeremy take the job. Sometimes the replacement is permanent. Sometimes the person who has been coasting discovers that coasting has a terminal velocity. But regular show gives its characters, and its adult audience, the reprieve, the stay of execution. And the relief is enormous precisely because the fear was real. There is a specific kind of humor in regular show that we have not yet named directly, and it deserves its own discussion. The show is masters of what we might call situational aging. This is the phenomenon where a joke that seemed one way when you were 12 becomes something completely different when you are 28. Not because the joke changed, because you changed. The words are the same, the animation is the same, the timing is the same. But the person hearing the joke has lived 16 more years, and those years rewrite the punchline without altering a single frame. Consider Benson's catchphrase, "You are fired." He says it in nearly every episode. To a 12-year-old, this is just a thing the angry boss says, a verbal tick, a running gag. It carries no weight because the 12-year-old has never been fired from anything. The words are sounds. They are funny sounds because Benson's face gets red when he says them. Now consider those same words from the perspective of a 28-year-old who has been fired. Who has sat in an office and heard those words directed at them? Who knows what it feels like when the job ends and the paycheck stops and the health insurance expires and the routine that structured your entire life disappears? "You are fired" is not a catchphrase to that person. It is a trigger. And the fact that Mordecai and Rigby never take it seriously, that they absorb the threat and continue as if it means nothing, is either infuriating or comforting, depending on whether you are watching the show from the perspective of the person who got fired or the person who wishes they could not be fired. This situational aging applies to nearly every recurring element of the show. Mordecai's inability to talk to Margaret goes from cute to concerning as the viewer ages. Rigby's lies go from funny to pathological. Muscle Man's crudeness goes from gross to defensive. Benson's anger goes from villainous to sympathetic. Pops's naivety goes from funny to tragic. Every character is refracted through the lens of the viewer's age, and the refraction changes everything. The show you watched at 12 is not the show you watch at 25. Same show, different viewer, different show. This is what people mean when they say regular show holds up. They do not mean the animation still looks good. They mean the show grows with them. It has enough depth to sustain a second reading, a third reading, a 10th reading. Every rewatch reveals something new, not because the show added anything, but because the viewer brought something new. More experience, more context, more life, and the show absorbs it all. It takes everything you bring to it and reflects it back as humor, as insight, as recognition. The show is a mirror. It always was. It was just waiting for you to grow into the reflection. A Bunch of Baby Ducks is Season 2, Episode 23. It aired on June 6, 2011. The premise is simple. Mordecai and Rigby find baby ducks in the park fountain while cleaning it. The ducks imprint on them. They follow them everywhere. They are tiny and helpless and dependent. And Mordecai and Rigby, two characters who cannot take care of themselves, are suddenly responsible for taking care of something else. For kids, baby ducks are cute. That is the joke. Cute baby ducks following funny characters around. But for adults, this episode is about the sudden, uninvited arrival of responsibility. You are going about your normal life. You are doing your normal tasks. And then something small and alive and completely dependent on you appears. And you did not ask for it. And you are not ready for it. But it is there. And it needs you. And walking away from it is not an option that the version of you that you want to be would choose. The baby ducks learn karate from Rigby. They grow. They develop abilities. They eventually fuse into a giant warrior duck creature that defeats a villain. The baby ducks do not stay helpless. They grow. They become powerful. They exceed their caretakers. And the show frames this not as a loss but as a fulfillment. The thing you raised became something greater than you. The responsibility you did not want produced something you could never have produced on your own. Every parent in the audience recognizes this arc. Not literally, hopefully. Their children probably did not fuse into a giant karate warrior. But the emotional arc, The progression from reluctant caretaker to proud witness. From, I did not ask for this, to, I cannot imagine my life without this. That is the arc of parenthood, and Regular Show draws it with baby ducks. And it works, because the underlying emotional truth is real, no matter what shape the baby takes. If you are still with us, consider subscribing. It makes a real difference. And there is Slam Dunk, Season 3, Episode 6. In this episode, Mordecai needs to use the computer to make a website for Margaret. Muscle Man and High Five Ghost have reserved the computer for the day, even though they are just playing basketball. Mordecai challenges them to a basketball game for the right to use the computer. He is terrible at basketball. The situation escalates. A basketball king appears. They end up playing basketball in outer space. The adult humor here is not in the plot. It is in the motivation. Mordecai does not care about the computer. He does not care about the website. He cares about impressing Margaret. The entire episode, the entire cosmic basketball saga, the entire journey from park to outer space and back, is powered by the desire to impress a girl. Remove Margaret from the equation, and Mordecai would have just waited until Muscle Man was done with the computer. The stakes are manufactured entirely by romantic anxiety, and every adult who has ever done something disproportionate to impress someone they had feelings for recognizes the engine driving this episode. The show is full of these moments. Moments where the stated motivation is one thing and the actual motivation is another, where characters claim they are fighting for principle or fairness or justice, and are actually fighting for attention, for approval, for love. The gap between the stated reason and the real reason is one of the show's richest sources of adult humor, because adults live in that gap. Adults spend their entire lives claiming they are doing things for one reason when they are actually doing them for another. I am working late because the project matters. I am working late because I am afraid of being fired. I am going to the gym because I want to be healthy. I am going to the gym because I am afraid of being unattractive. Regular Show puts that gap on screen, in 11-minute increments, and trusts the adult audience to see through the stated motivation to the real one. There is one more dimension of the show is adult humor that deserves attention. The show is relationship with authority. Not just Benson is authority, though that is the most visible example. The show is broader critique of the systems of authority that structure adult life. The park has a hierarchy. Mr. Mallard owns it. Benson manages it. The workers maintain it. This is a corporate structure, a chain of command, an organization with rules and roles and expectations. And the show uses this structure not as background but as commentary. Mr. Maillard is the owner who does not understand how the park actually functions. He inherited it. He does not do the work. He does not know what the work involves. He just owns it. And his ownership gives him the right to make decisions about a thing he does not understand, affecting people he does not know. Benson is middle management. He has authority over the workers but no authority over the owner. He can hire and fire, but he cannot set policy. He can demand results, but he cannot provide resources. He is trapped between the expectations above him and the incompetence below him, and his only recourse is anger. Not because anger solves anything, because anger is the only emotional expression available to someone who has responsibility without power. Mordecai and Rigby are labor. They do the work, or they avoid the work, which amounts to the same thing in terms of where they sit in the hierarchy. They have no authority, no decision-making power, no input on policy. They are told what to do, and they choose whether to do it. Their only form of resistance is passive, laziness as rebellion, incompetence as protest, avoidance as the only power available to people who have no other kind. This is not a subtle critique. It is a detailed, accurate, consistently maintained depiction of how workplaces actually function. The owner who does not know, the manager who cannot change anything, the workers who do not care. Regular Show looks at this structure and finds it both absurd and inevitable. The show does not propose an alternative. It does not suggest that the hierarchy should be flattened, or that the workers should rise up, or that the manager should rebel. It just shows you the system, with all its inefficiencies and frustrations and small absurdities, and lets you recognize it as the system you live in. The recognition is the joke, the familiarity is the humor, and the humor is, unavoidably, exclusively adult. There is one more thing I want to sit with before we close this out. One more layer of the show that only becomes visible with enough distance, enough time, enough living. And it is the simplest observation of all. So simple that it feels almost ridiculous to state. But it needs to be stated, because it is the thread that connects every joke, every reference, every hidden meaning, every adult observation we have discussed in this entire video. Regular Show is about time running out. Not in the ticking clock way, not in the narrative stakes way, in the existential way, in the way that every adult understands and every child does not. Time is running out. For Mordecai to tell Margaret how he feels, for Rigby to finish what he started, for Benson to find peace, for Skips to make the grief bearable, for Muscle Man to become the person Starla already sees in him, for Pops to exist in a world that will inevitably test his kindness to destruction. The show never says this, it never announces it, but it structures every episode around it. There is always a deadline, a warranty expiring, a concert starting, a sun setting, a party beginning, a ritual that must be completed before midnight. Time is always running out, and the characters are always scrambling, always behind, always one step away from the consequence they should have avoided hours ago. This is the central metaphor that unifies everything, the mundane tasks and the cosmic escalation, the slacker comedy and the existential tragedy, the kid jokes and the adult jokes. All of it is about the same thing. You have a finite amount of time. You can spend it wisely or waste it. You can do the work or avoid it. You can tell the person you love that you love them, or you can wait and wait and wait until the moment passes and the opportunity becomes a memory. Every episode of Regular Show begins with time and ends with the consequence of how that time was used. And the adults in the audience know, with a certainty that no child can access, that the time does not come back. That the moment Mordecai did not use to tell Margaret the truth does not reset. That the day Rigby spent avoiding work is a day he does not get again. That the year Benson spent angry is a year he will never have back. The show forgives all of this. That is the miracle. The show forgives the wasted time. It forgives the missed opportunities. It forgives the cowardice and the laziness and the avoidance and the fear. It forgives its characters because it understands them. Because it knows that wasting time is what people do, that missing opportunities is what people do, that being afraid is what people do, and that the forgiveness is not a reward, it is a necessity, because without it, the weight of everything you did wrong would be unbearable. Regular Show carries that weight for you. It takes your wasted afternoons and your avoided conversations and your unlived potential, and it puts them in the mouths of a blue jay and a raccoon, and it finds them funny, not contemptible, not pathetic, funny. And the humor is not at your expense. The humor is a hand on your shoulder, a voice saying that it is okay, that everyone does this, that the time you wasted was not really wasted because you were alive during it. And being alive, even badly, even lazily, even cowardly, is enough. It is always enough. High Five Ghost is a character we have not discussed in this video, and there is a reason for that. High Five Ghost barely speaks. He floats beside Muscle Man. He does what he is told. He is, in the most literal sense, a ghost, a presence without substance, a supporting character in every possible meaning of that phrase. He exists to be there, to fill space, to provide a body, even a transparent one, in scenes that need another figure. For kids, High Five Ghost is just a character, a funny floating ghost who gives high fives. But for adults, High Five Ghost is the person at every job, at every party, in every friend group who is present but not accounted for. The person who shows up every day and is never noticed. The person who does their work and causes no problems and generates no stories and is, for all practical purposes, invisible. Regular Show includes this character without commentary. It does not make his invisibility a plot point. It does not give him a dramatic arc about being overlooked. It just lets him exist on the margin. And for any adult who has ever felt like the High Five Ghost of their own life, the person who is technically present but never the main character, never the focus, never the person the story is about, his quiet persistence in the background is both a joke and a comfort. He is there. He is always there. And no one ever asks him to leave. Sometimes that is enough. Sometimes being present is the whole contribution. And regular show, by including him, without demanding that he justify his inclusion, validates that form of existence in a way that very few shows have the generosity to do. Let us close with this. J.G. Quintel created Regular Show from a student film about eating acid at a gas station. He turned an 11-minute experiment in surreal humor into 261 episodes of one of the most layered, most rewatchable, most emotionally sophisticated animated shows in American television history. He did this by understanding something fundamental about storytelling. The best stories work on multiple levels. The best jokes land differently depending on who is laughing. The best characters change meaning as the audience changes age. And the best shows trust their audiences, all of their audiences, to find the version of the show that is meant for them. Regular Show trusted children to enjoy the surface, the colors, the chaos, the slapstick, the magical escalation. It trusted adults to see through the surface to the structure. The drug metaphors, the workplace satire, the romantic paralysis, the existential dread, the nostalgia for a time that was already gone. It trusted both audiences simultaneously, for 8 seasons, without condescending to the children or pandering to the adults. It respected everyone who watched it, and that respect is why it endures. The jokes you only get as an adult are not hidden in Regular Show. They are the other half of it, the half you grow into, the half that waits for you, the half that tells you, quietly, in the space between the punchlines, that the show understands you, that it always understood you, that it was always, from the very first frame, a show about you, about the parts of you that are stuck, about the parts of you that are scared, about the parts of you that waste time and avoid work and fail at love and say the wrong thing and break things you were supposed to protect, about all of those parts. And about the other part too, the part that shows up, the part that sits on the couch next to the person you love, doing nothing, watching nothing, being nothing special, and knowing, even if you cannot say it, that this is the moment, this nothing moment. This is the one you will remember. Regular Show knew. It always knew. There is a way of talking about Regular Show that treats it as a cultural artifact, a product of its time, a show that aired between 2010 and 2017 and captured something about that particular era of American animation. And that is true. It is a product of the Cartoon Network renaissance that also gave us Adventure Time and Steven Universe and Gumball. It aired alongside shows that shared its sensibility, if not its specific tone. It existed within an ecosystem, but Regular Show is also timeless in a way that most of its contemporaries are not. Because the adult jokes in Regular Show are not dated. They are not about specific political moments or trending topics or cultural fads. They are about the permanent, structural experiences of being alive and growing older, the fear of being replaced, the inability to express love, the slow realization that your parents were right about more things than you wanted to admit, the specific kind of tiredness that comes not from physical exertion, but from the daily effort of holding your life together. These experiences do not expire. They do not become irrelevant when the cultural moment shifts. They are the experiences that every generation inherits from the one before it, unchanged, unimproved, and unavoidable. That is why someone watching Regular Show for the first time today, years after its finale, will still find the adult jokes funny. Not nostalgically funny. Currently funny. Presently funny. Because the 23-year-old watching it today is living through the same things that the 23-year-old watching it in 2010 was living through. Different phones, different apps, different slang, same fear, same laziness. Same desperate hope that the universe will forgive you for not knowing what you are doing yet. Regular Show is the show that says you are forgiven, not because you earned it, not because you fixed it, not because you grew up and got your act together and finally became the person you were supposed to be. You are forgiven because you are here, because you showed up, because you sat on the couch and turned on the television and let yourself be 23 for a little while longer. That is enough. The show does not need you to be better. It just needs you to be present. And presence, in the end, is what Regular Show is about. Not the supernatural chaos, not the cosmic escalation, not the jokes or the references or the hidden meanings. Presence, being there, in the park, on the couch, At the job you do not love but have not left. Next to the person you care about but cannot tell. In the life you did not plan but are living anyway. Regular show does not ask you to be extraordinary. It does not ask you to be heroic or transformative or inspiring. It asks you to be regular, to show up, to try, to fail, to show up again. And again, and again, until showing up becomes the extraordinary thing. 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 The sentient hot dog that ate itself. The gumball machine whose anger is a form of caring. The immortal Yeti who skips because he lost someone he loved. The unicorns who represent the worst version of fraternity culture. The shapeshifter who was better at being Rigby than Rigby was. The Russian spy who chose friendship over duty. The raccoon who went back to high school because he wanted to deserve the woman he loved. The blue jay who spent 4 seasons trying to say 3 words and never quite got there. Every single one of these jokes, these moments, these observations is about the same thing. Being human, being imperfect, being alive in a world that does not explain itself and does not wait for you to catch up. The jokes are for adults, because adulthood is when you finally understand that the joke was always about you. The park is quiet now. The sun is setting. The work is done, or close enough. Mordecai and Rigby are on the couch. The television is on, but neither of them is watching. They are just there, together, in the specific, unremarkable, irreplaceable now. And the show holds on this image. And the show asks nothing of you. And you close your eyes, and you drift. And the last thing you hear, somewhere between waking and sleeping, is the sound of 2 friends doing nothing in a park that does not exist, in a world that forgives you for everything, in a show that knew you better than you thought a cartoon could. And that, ultimately, is what makes regular show the perfect thing to fall asleep to. Not because it is boring, because it is safe, because it is a world where your worst mistakes do not follow you home, where your worst days reset by morning, where the people who love you show up again tomorrow, no matter what you broke today. That is not childhood. That is the fantasy of childhood that adults carry with them into the dark, into the quiet, into the space between waking and sleeping where the things you are afraid of during the day lose their edges and become something almost gentle. Regular show knows you are scared. It knows you are tired. It knows you are not sure you are doing this right, this being an adult thing, this showing up everyday thing, this trying not to break everything thing. And it does not tell you it will be okay. It shows you a blue jay and a raccoon who are worse at it than you are, and it lets you laugh, and it lets you relax, and it lets you close your eyes. And when you open them, the park is still there. The chairs are set up, and everything around them is on fire. But the chairs are set up. That is the whole story. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.